like the master fee schedule.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and convene the meeting of the Public Works Subcommittee. The first thing I'm going to do is turn the gavel over to the Vice Chair, Councilmember Wheeler, to conduct the rest of the meeting. So you can sit over there first, if you would, please. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All right, call to order, I guess. We'll just see who we've got here. I see we've got Vanessa and if you just want to go around the table real quick, let's just see who's here.
Bobby Spagnola, city engineer technician.
Kevin Thompson. Derek Montani, Director of Public Works.
Gus Walter, City Council Member.
Ryan Wheeler, City Council Member.
Hector Galvan, Park Superintendent.
David Kelly, city manager.
Kurt Calder, public engineer.
And then public comments. I don't see we have anybody on. Do we have anything? Okay. And then communication does C, council subcommittees may discuss at this time written communications received since the last meeting. Written communications will be discussed. Do we have any written communications?
No written communications other than the agenda items.
Okay.
Vice Chair.
And then D, let's approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Any objections on that?
I'd move approval.
I'll second that.
All right. Let's move right into E and go to new business and start with number one. I think if we just do it like we did last time, I mean, I don't think I need to read every boom, 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 boom. Let's start with one and work our way down the line.
So thanks for your time, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think this is just a picture to show the parking space. We'd like to see if the city would be okay with us parking limit. It's like a 30-minute limit on those front four. And mainly it's usually it's not a big deal at all, but I think with Friday Night Live and then some of the bigger like car shows and sometimes people park there and leave the car. So I'm not really big into like kicking people out, but
Is there 4 or is there 5?
there's 5, I'm sorry.
So just to summarize, we received a request from the representatives for Dahlia and Sage owner asking for consideration of time parking of the 5 parking spaces that are adjacent in front the Dahlia and Sage food market. In the muni code does provide for the time parking. We don't have in our code specifically a 30-minute parking, but we do have a 24-minute parking.
Yeah, perfect.
And that is usually associated with painting the curb green, so green painted curb. There can be accompanying that a sign that denotes the time parking. But I know our city engineer is also aware of the time parking provisions. Anything else, Engineer Apodaca, that you'd want to add? I'm not sure if it would be necessary for a sign, a city installed sign. We could certainly check if that's needed for enforcement or not. I don't think it is. Vanessa?
No, it could be done by curb painting. There's provisions in the city code that specify how much of a certain block can be allocated to limited parking. And so whatever's being proposed, we would just need to verify that it conforms with city code. For example, half of the remaining space, if I remember correctly, needs to be unlimited parking.
And I think there's at least 5. I know there's 2 immediately to the west and another, I think 4.
There's at least 7 diagonals to the west.
Okay, so it wouldn't meet the threshold of when you see the threshold.
Now, Vanessa, is handicap considered limited parking? Would that classify as one?
No, the limited parking is, if I'm remembering correctly, is really like for loading zone, for example, time limits and loading zone kind of thing. or a red zone, flat out, no parking. But nothing, I don't recall seeing anything about accessibility provisions.
Is there a handicap one on that?
Down towards the Husky and. down
Yeah,
towards
there's
the-
one, there's a sign. It's down the harder task,
Oh,
the
yeah.
entrance to the back parking lot. Yeah, is that? Oh, yeah. So there is one in front?
There's one on front, yeah, there's two on that street.
There's two on that street, one on either end of those hanging
And
parking
that
spaces.
fills the bill right there for what we need to happen, right?
So if I'm not mistaken, handicap would not be limited to the amount of time that they can park there. If I understand that correctly.
Yeah, so the handicap space, or the ADA designated space is not within the 5 spaces that are being requested.
Well, what I meant, David, was, if you were handicapped and you parked in a 20-minute parking only, you could stay there for in perpetuity.
I don't know if there's an exception. I think what you're asking, Chair, is if you have the ADA placard, are you exempt from the time parking restrictions?
Yes.
I don't know the answer. That would be something I'd have to ask our police department whether the placard kind of would overrule the time parking requirement. Generally, I think the perception is that they're separate, meaning, time parking is time parking irrespective of whether you have a placard, but obviously you cannot, if you don't have the placard, you can't park in the ADA spot, or legal.
Just a couple more, Mr. Chair, if I could. Kurt, so you have 5 spots in front of the store now, right?
Yes,
And I think at one point you were looking to maybe take one away and make it a parklet where.
yeah.
Are you still looking to do that? or-
I like the idea, and especially now because we are bringing in sandwiches at lunchtime.
Mhm.
So we put together a plan and got some pricing, and it was, 25 to 30 grand.
Wow.
For a permanent one, not one, I wouldn't want one of those wood ones. If we were gonna do it, I was gonna do like a concrete curb and some seating and some shade.
And how's your parking lot on the side of the building? Is that being overrun with Friday Night Live folks?
Yeah, and Friday Night Live, they did, yeah, but usually we're done by, 7, well, we're done, we close by 7,
Yeah,
and then, and usually between 6 and 7. It's not as busy, so it fills a lot, but I wouldn't say it's a huge.
yeah. I don't have a problem with it at all, and I totally can empathize with the fact that, Friday Night Live is a whole new ballgame, and people park wherever they can.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure, though, that I wouldn't like to see at least one sign put there, because I know it's most of the time, especially on Friday Night Live, it's kind of going to be good English. It's kind of going to be self-enforcement. I seriously doubt the police are going to run over and give somebody a ticket because they've been there for
Right.
a limited period of time. So, if they could at least see it, hopefully people will at least respect it.
Yeah,
But
I'm okay with that, that works.
yeah, well, we may just paint it green and do it, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah, see what Friday Night Live people are gonna do,
Yeah.
they're not used to a green curb. They pull up now, it's gonna second guess it,
I mean, you say you guys are closed at 7, right?
Yeah,
And-
For during business hours. Parking.
during business hours, I mean, those spaces usually it's people coming and going, but it's just kind of those like. The car show, I think last year or maybe year, but anyways, one time it got filled up, and then what am I trying to say? This year, the Citrus Fair Parade, people park there and then just walk, they find a spot, and I would do the same, but. So just something to kind of remind them that.
Maybe a sign that has, I can see the signs that say. X amount of parking from time frame to time frame.
Yeah, 20-minute parking between 5 AM and
Exactly.
7 PM.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I was just gonna point out that our code, for the 24-minute parking. Specifies between the time of 9 AM and 6 PM. On any day except Sundays and holidays, so it does stop at 6. And then it does include Sundays, not sure why that code was written that way, but and then I just want to mention, city clerk did check on the green limited time parking, and said the ADA placard holders can park there as long as needed, so it does provide an exemption for ADA placards. Obviously, this would be required, enforcement will be required, and given we don't have dedicated parking staff, enforcement may be relatively light, but it does provide the notice to the residents or the patrons that it's.
Word travels quick.
Yeah, I mean, they know what's going on.
I don't want to.
And I also wonder why 24 minutes, as
Yeah,
opposed to.
What was the year that was?
1965.
Oh,
That's it, is the answer.
This might be a little off topic, but kind of, so when I took that picture and then somebody at the store said, well, we could almost make another parking spot on that diagonal. Because sometimes people park there anyways, really, I mean, the tail of their car would be kind of hanging out in that,
entrance to the parking lot.
yeah, and I know the police use it and I'm sure fire knows wouldn't use it, but.
Well, they used to, yeah.
Yeah, but it's possible, and that's where that parklet, we were gonna put that parklet there. But
Kurt, would you be willing to draw up something and maybe resubmit it for review by our city engineer and public works director? Because I mean, one option would, I think, what might be appropriate is restriking those spaces.
Yeah.
And rather than just trying to shoe one in,
oh, I see what you're saying.
you kind of restripe them.
Yeah.
See if you can pick up the space. So,
Yeah,
that might be workable. I imagine they're designed to city standard, but maybe there's a way that they can be designed to still provide for the appropriate site distance pulling. As vehicles are police use that driveway as an entrance and exit. So, but if you were to draw something up, we could bring it back to the subcommittee and they could take a look at it.
okay, perfect.
Maybe I don't know what the timeline is for. I mean, we can get the green painting done fairly quickly. But if you want us to hold off until you submit something back, we can bring it back and then, see if that works, or get it painted. It's not really gonna affect the striping for the parking spaces, and see if there's a way to factor in another space as a future add-on.
Okay, that second, the latter would be preferable. Just because time frame sometimes months slip by. But the signs, the green paint would be great, and then thank you. And then, because actually we might be able to shove some of those spaces further east and pick up more footage.
This is still council day. Correction?
Well, no, I was just gonna, before Joe left, I just want to ask him one more question. No, no.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us if you don't want, but anything happening with the corner property down there at the city's?
So same thing, we had a architectural rendering drawn up and had some really preliminary, I wanted to go concrete deck. And the numbers that we were getting back just kind of blew us out of the water. And not that wouldn't be, we still want that as a long term. And I was thinking, 2-story with retail on the bottom and then maybe offices on the top. But now we're also rethinking, coming back and asking if residential would work, like retail on the bottom, resident, and make it 3 stories. Kind of like David Holt did doing with his. Because residents just seems to be more.
There's a need.
Yeah, needed. And then the second option, which I don't like as much, but I was thinking of just doing a small office building, so I could get out of the antiques and uniques building and, you know, stop handling there, yeah. So, we had an architect to drop a rendering of that, I just haven't submitted because I don't really, I mean, I'd rather do the full build out.
Yeah.
But man, the construction costs are just crazy.
Skyrocket.
Yeah, right now.
Well, we're ready whenever you want, help you along, so.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we're exploring the residential one a little bit more. And then not to take up the committee's time, but parking would be an issue there, I know as well.
Well, they're just, Kurt, to point you to the most recent amendments to the downtown zoning, and TOD zoning. I think there was some consideration given to the parking requirements, so those were
I'll send it to you. Kurt.
modified, so it might be helpful.
Yeah,
Plus the residential piece too.
I think Kevin sent me that, and we talked about it quite a few times. But is it correct, it would limit it to the to a low-income housing or?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay. That's, maybe I heard that as a rumor, you know.
That is true,
Because-
but could apply to others.
Gotcha.
I'll
Yeah, we,
You're talking about second floor residential being affordable.
is that what it is?
No, is that what you're
Yes.
asking? That's not. a requirement.
No.
Well, it doesn't. I'm sorry to say, it just doesn't.
That's
work. Yeah. The other thing with the 3 stores, if I'm overstaying my welcome, I mean,
You know,
the upper 2, we were thinking doing 3 stories there. It gets pretty tall, but we could stay underneath, I think, the 35-foot limit. And then we were looking into whether or not elevator is required. And I think it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, it's,
Add a bunch to that.
I don't have a solid plan then, other than an idea. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just to sum up, I hear support to grant the request to paint the curb green, to provide for 24-minute parking pursuant to the code, and also evaluate a sign.
Yeah.
that, demarcates the time restrictions for those spaces.
Good luck finding one that says 24 minutes.
We'll start with the curb painting, anything that assess the need for a sign.
Yeah. Group meetings quick, down and dirty, and we'll see how everybody pans out at Friday night. Just keep in mind, that's good stuff to park for 30 minutes. 24 minutes. You can run down there and park real quick.
Yeah, we have 24 cents.
There you go. Alrighty. So let's move on to.
Thank you.
Item E2, presentation, also an attachment on that one, coming up for the River Park Playground proposal.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair, and just a little background, we're gonna invite participant that's the attendee, Shayna. All right, she's in, and she's prepared a PowerPoint that outlines some options for subcommittee's review and consideration. Just for reference, there's we have an existing playground structure is separated by a landscape area and an existing swing set. It's one of our oldest play structures in our park system. The parts are getting more challenging to procure, and this is, again, the equipment's in really good shape. It's been maintained and inspected as required, but it is starting to be aged, and so we consulted with Miracle Play Systems, and that's who joining us today is Shayna Friesen, who is the project manager, client services manager with Miracle Play Systems. They have got a tremendous number of options that are available. We met with Shayna, and we kind reviewed some of those, now there's really this whole movement into themed playground areas that kind of fit all kinds of different themes and concepts and certainly age groups. And I think the intent was to look at options that are within the existing kind of age grouping. And as such, Shayna prepared some options for us for the subcommittee to review. And generally those include sticking with the existing system and adding components, replacing the main playground in its entirety with new features. And then some other options where we look at replacing the swing set. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shayna. And Shayna, if you want to walk us through, introduce yourself and walk us through a presentation.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me virtually today, guys. Sorry I can't be there in person. I will go ahead and just share my screen and kind of walk you through both of the designs here that we kind of came up with. But yeah, I'm let's see here. Okay, am I sharing my screen? Yeah. All good? Okay, great. So yeah, so I'm Shayna Friesen. I work at Miracle Play Systems. We've been working on this for a few months now with the guys here, trying to get some different options for you guys, like they said, for a complete update of the whole playground and then just kind of an upgrade. So I'll show you the two options here, and then also the cornhole area that we were looking at as well. It's another great option for the horseshoe pit area. So this option is for the update of the existing playground. So this, you can see here on the plan, is the existing play structure that's in there. And I believe it's a 5 to 12 play structure. We thought, let's see, I have some pictures too here of the existing play structure. So this is kind of what was out there when I visited the site a few months ago. A lot of space, unused space. We just thought, wonder if we keep this and kind of add to it, add some value and some more play elements to that play box exactly. So this design option, we thought we'll keep that, update a little more elements in the area for the upper age play group of kids, and then maybe do something more for the 2 to 5, because the 2 to 5 age, the younger kids, there wasn't a whole lot for them to play with over here. So in the swing box area, we thought we'll replace the swing, add a little structure for the 2 to 5s and some sensory panels, some more low ground level play to encourage the kids to kind of play over there in their own play box by the swings. And then the older kids will be separate in their existing play box. So you see here, I'll just kind of go around. We added some musical elements in this box. Even though it looks like there's a lot of room out there, there's fall zones and everything we have to be aware of. So we added a lot of standing features that don't have big fall zones that we could kind of squeeze in there. So music equipment is really great to kind of sprinkle in. We added a boulder ridge rock wall with some bongo perches. So this is kind of a climbing element that was kind of missing from the current play structure. So we just wanted to round out the play box with something that really fulfills everything that was needed there. The younger children play box, we have a little tiny deck, and I'll show you guys in a second the renderings of these, with some sensory panels, like a little lemonade stand, some other little panel areas, and then a new swing set and a spin around, which is really fun. So I'll kind of show you here. This is the 2 to 5 area this is like our design for the add-on to existing structure design. So this is the little play structure, new swings with the top swings, a little, you can see here, lemonade stand with sensory panels, and then the spin around, which is really, really neat. I think you could get like 25 kids on that, and that's for 2 to 12 years old. So that's something that the kids in that play box could play on together, or little kids could play on it by themselves. So these are just kind of some rendering images of this design option. That one's a pretty good one there. You could see how it's going to look for the lower age. And then this is the upper age. So this is the existing play structure, kind of a quick concept. It's not exactly the right one because that's not our playground, but this is some of the things that we added on. This really cool climbing wall, music panels, music instruments, a little sensory garden wall panel too. So this whole, let's see, this whole design option came out to about 168,000. That would be equipment, install. I think the wood fiber that was in there was still pretty new. So I think we're not doing any surfacing there. We would just pull it back and put it back in. So this is a great economical way to just update the playground and make it look fresh and new without spending a ton of money. The other design option we have is to replace the entire playground and update everything completely. So this one, we removed the playground, the play structure that was in there already, updated it with something much more intense, a lot more in there. As you could see the difference between the two, there's way more play features here, a lot more playability for the upper age kids, a hand, overhead climbers, lots of cool things around the outside here, a little bit of musical instruments as well. And then we added basically something for everybody here, the 2 to 12 age on this one. So it's kind of everything all together. And then this design option, we thought we'll just keep this area over here, kind of the swing area. So we did a smaller swing set with an accelerator swing. So a couple different swing options there for the kids. And then the spin around by Elephant Play is something the guys really liked. And we just wanted to get this in both of the design options because it was so well liked by them. So you can see here, it's kind of a lower, age structure up to an upper. So this one is great. All kids can play together, very inclusive, lots of great sensory activity around it. And it's more, just like an all-in-one, lots of things under deck, things kind of hidden and tucked away. Just I feel like it's a lot more play components in this one than what you guys currently have. We've got like the monkey bars basically over here, standalone. And this is, I just think, a really great option if you want to do something that's for everyone all together in the same play box. And then I'll go to the swing area here. Second here. So the swing area, we got this really cool basket swing, which is kind of neat. A lot of kids could kind of pile in there together. Then you still have your top swings for your little kids. And then the spin around top, where I said, I think about 25 kids could get on that is the max. So it's really, really fun. Kids could get under here. You could actually, a kid with a mobility device can get their way onto the platform there and even play with the kids that are able-bodied. So it's a really great piece of equipment there. So this option came to about 280,000 all in installed with equipment and install and everything, putting the wood fiber back and topping it off and everything. So this one is a total revamp of the entire place, the playground. The third thing I wanted to share with you guys was we walked over to the horseshoe pit and we think this is kind of an unused space. A lot of people don't play horseshoes anymore. I see this all the time at a lot of parks I go to. It's just a big space that just doesn't ever get used. So we kind of came up with the idea all together. We're like, what about, I tossed out an idea about doing a cornhole area. So I went ahead and did a design option for that, couple of cornhole boards. And these are actually made out of kind of a concrete material. So they stay in place. They don't get moved, just kind of a permanent in place idea here for the space. And this option, so it's the cornhole boards, equipment, removing the sand, hitting an artificial turf in that whole space. And that comes to about 40,000 installed all in there. So that's kind of a alternate add-on if you guys want to consider that as well. I think I had also, sorry, here is some more pictures of the spin around, the Elephant Play spin around, so you could see how many kids could cram in there. It's crazy. Really cool piece of equipment. Elephant Play is out of Canada, and it's kind of fun to throw something like this in there with your traditional post and deck, basic stuff, just a wow factor, I think, for the playground. So yeah, so any questions about these designs or anything on the designs? Kind of bring them up to the front here again. Yeah.
Here with us in the committee. I know we had a little bit of conversation around the existing swing set and the kind of what the new proposed swing set would provide and how that relates to kind of current thinking.
Yes, so let's see, I think I have a picture. The existing swing set, it's fairly old. We've got your two, belt seats, your two toddler seats here. So, it's just, it's crazy that that's kind of all that's there in this play box. So there's a swing takes up a lot of space with critical fall height requirements. So the couple options that we gave here, well, this one basically is just replacing it. So this is the design option to add on. We'll just call it that. We revamped it with a kind of an as equal for the swing set area, but we moved it over where we could add other elements like a little lemonade stand, a little playground for the little kids. So that one's kind of an as equal. And then this one, we wanted to do something different, just the 4-bay swing set kind of takes up so much space and it's not as much play value. We thought we'll do a smaller one for the little kids because they need their top seat, right? But the accelerator swing is an all-inclusive swing. We wanted to kind of, do something different, a swing that is more kind of wow factor and exciting to the kids to play on. Kids of all ages could get on it and kids with mobility devices could get on this. So I think that was missing in the playground here, just the inclusiveness part of the swing area. And then we also kind of put, we put that spin around with the elephant play in there as well. So we have the swinging and spinning kind of all going around in that one area of the playground, which is kind of fun, I think. Yeah, any other questions?
Shannon, this is Brian Wheeler, Vice Chair. I got a question for you. I mean, I like all these designs and I know Cloverdale's doing all their inspections and everything is good, but my question is, it keeps coming up, seeing this and I hear hazard and I hear all this. What's our requirement to do the inspections on these playgrounds?
I mean, you're not, I don't know exactly the exact requirements. I know after we install a playground, we do a playground safety inspection. That's kind of our standard package we'll add in to make sure everything's installed correctly and great. You could do that, have a playground safety inspected quite frequently. Sometimes we get calls, they're kind of cities or schools are like, is this still the code? Are we, needing to do some things here? So we'll send out our playground safety inspector occasionally just to kind of do a quick revamp to see if there's something that is out of date or needs updating in code or required. But I'm not sure how often that needs to be done. I think it's just something that, when you're making modifications, we have to have it inspected to make sure everything's compliant into code. But technically you could have an old playground, I think, and just keep with it as long as you're not making modifications. It's kind of grandfathered in, So I think it's really advised to do an inspection every now and then, though, for sure.
I guess, and the reason for that question is right there. I know these are nice and it'd be awesome to get those in there, but with that much stuff, does it become a liability? Does Cloverdale have somebody cruise up from Santa Rosa and, hey, look at this spinning thing. Oh, I got a broken arm. Hey, Cloverdale, I'm on my way down.
Oh,
There,
so
I mean?
everything is ASTM compliant and inspected. Like everything that we sell you guys is to code. So there's, kids are gonna get hurt and play, when they play. Like things always happen for sure. But I guess sometimes that does happen. Like when you have some injuries, we'll send, you want to request a playground safety inspector just to come out and make sure something isn't right. Things might shift or get damaged. And it's just, my relationship with the guys here, just keeping us informed if things are broke or need fixing or something broke under warranty, we'll get it replaced, just to keep it on top of that is really key, I guess. Just having the communication with me and making sure things are fixed when they need to be fixed or roped off until they could get fixed.
Go ahead, sorry.
Me? Just a couple things. Well, actually, there's quite a few things. At some point, Shannon, I'm going to ask you to share with us what grant money is available out there to do some completions on some of these projects, whether it be with the county or with the state. Let's talk about the beanbag location. Personally, I don't really feel that the beanbag belongs in this recreational park. I think that's something that I would prefer personally to take out of this component and move it over to City Park. Reason being, you know, when I was a younger fella and played horseshoes on a Sunday afternoon with a couple of six packs and some friends, we got kind of rowdy. And a rowdy location is definitely not there in a residential neighborhood. I think it belongs
Yes.
over at Second Street Park, where we may have some renovations coming there pretty soon. So that's number one. Number two, we have to be very mindful that Baumgartner is developing their residential property. We're going to be doing the new playground right down the street. We really have to be conscious of making sure, number one, and I know we will, that the kids can get there safely on their bikes. And once they get there, they're in a safe environment. So if we could just back up a little bit and look at the creek that goes through there. I know Hector and his crew just did some fencing back on Vintage Meadows to prevent any falls or hazards. You know, that really has to be looked at. We got little kids running around playing. You know, kids would probably rather play with mud pies than on swings. So I think we really have to be concerned about that. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that I was hoping at some point was to get a second pickleball park. And what an ideal location than where that swing set is. I think it's probably already the proper size. And Kevin helped me remember the bang for our buck on that pickleball court that we built. Was that like 170?
Yeah, I think it's about 140.
Yeah, so it's I don't want to say it's cheap, but in, you know, when you're talking playground equipment, you know, it's relatively right there price wise. And what I like about that is the interaction between the seniors, the high school students, and the younger community all playing in the same location. You know, I just think it fosters relationships in those different demographics. That's I really think important. Also, one of the key things I think we have to do before we even undertake something like this is to have a doorknob sign made up and go and let those folks that are right there, I think it's Greatleaf and Greatleaf Court, to let them know that we're going to be making some changes in some adding some new equipment, and we want to hear their input. That's really important that we do that. So I think just throwing a couple things like that out there, you know, I'm all in favor of making sure that our parks are up to date, especially our Common Park. You know, that's one that we seem to neglect, or maybe I just neglect it by not going by there once in a while. But I just think it's important that we take this opportunity and we see if maybe we can get a pickleball, another one in there. And just make sure that the neighborhood is included in that. So, and I mentioned grant money, and you know, one of the things that if you did an aerial view of James Gore's district, you really won't find any playground parks this far north. You know, the county folks that live right down the street on Church Lane, right off on the other side of CVS, that's county land. I forget how many homes are back there, but those folks come and use the playgrounds that's paid for by the city, and that's fine because our folks go use the canoe paths and other things. But if there's an opportunity for us to get funding to help construct a park like this, whether it be through the county, the state, whoever, we surely would like to know about it when you do your research. And that's about all I got to say about that right now. So, thank you.
Just a couple of things. Hector, the Parks Superintendent, just on several things I want to note out here. As far as the park inspections, we perform, Miguel and I perform a high frequency playground inspection daily and weekly routine.
Yeah, I know my only question that was, I hope that, I know that should cover everything, Bobby, right?
Correct.
Okay, as long as it does, then we're good. My big thing was like, if the fence down by the creek, or we've got this and we get this new stuff, and now we have a liability, and oh, are we doing the right thing? So if they're inspected, we're good, you know what I mean?
So
And so, sorry, I have to go further on that a little bit, and I apologize for interrupting. Essentially, what in my past life, what we used to do is we do monthly inspections. Anything that was called out, anything that was damaged, that needed to be repaired, that we could take care of, we would do it.
That's it.
Put a service request in so we can track it, and then caution off that area if it's something that is essentially could be damaging or hurtful to a child or anything like that. And then from there, if it goes further than that, we would then go into getting with Miracle Play Systems and tell them, hey, sorry.
And that's exactly what we've been doing, Bobby. Thank you. That's exactly, I've been doing it, we've been doing it now for 14 years, so it's, so we have a log of the high frequency playground inspections with our daily routines that we do it every 2 weeks.
Perfect.
And so that's, and just like Bobby explained, so that's one of the things, so that's being taken care of. We just need to, like, just, if we were to get into a different playground, perform those, there'll be more work to do. And the second thing is, just to give you guys a little, on the, I don't know, big instructions. The neighborhood community, I think that's a great idea. I think it's, we've done it in the past, or we can get together like at the library and just so we can get the community involved in these types of decisions. And then just one thing to note, that the existing playground is one of the oldest playgrounds in the city. And it's made, the company that put it together is no longer in business. And every time something breaks on that specific playground, it is very challenging to get those parts and expensive. And you were there, it's so one of the reasons why we've been getting some inquiries from the community around that neighborhood to replace that playground, it's obviously the oldest playground that we have, but it just getting the parts availability, it's almost impossible. And to retrofit, that's when the playground inspector comes in.
Yeah.
To make sure to correctly. And that's but just to give you guys a little bit of history. And then the second, the last thing is Kevin and I did it myself, and then Kevin showed up later. We actually went out on site to take some measurements for the possibility of putting a third pickleball, fourth pickleball court. And we determined that there's just not enough room. Where the swings are. Yeah, we would get into like retaining walls up on the slope. It would have to go up into the slope a little bit. Because it requires so much room. And then if you go on this side, you're going to be impacting the creek. So that was another option that we looked at, but we did take some measurements up there. They were just that specific location wasn't enough room. And we can meet out there,
If you've already been out there, that's fine. I mean, there's either room or there isn't. I just, I seem to remember getting something from Brad about hosting, having somebody come out and give professional lessons or something. And I just know the need to have a third and fourth one we're going to eventually need right off.
The only thing is up there, I think that if Brad had the ability, we would have 7 of them up there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
We can pick the ball up.
Yeah.
So can you share with us possibilities of grant money, or how does the city pay for this?
I'll address that, Vice Chair and Vice Mayor. So really there are what I consider 3 sources of funds for improvements at Berber Park. It's not in a landscape and lighting district, so we would be either using general fund, which would, it's not currently budgeted, so that'd be something we have to entertain as part of the budget process with council's input. Secondarily is development impact fees. We believe we're preparing an analysis of our impact fee balances. We've got a number of projects in progress. We've now completed, well, we're finalizing everything, our final expenses on the plaza restrooms. I know that that's been accepted by council. Basketball court project in progress. Likewise, we finished pickleball courts. Now we have the dog park in progress, and later we're going to talk about the street furnishing. So we're looking at all those items to give you to provide this subcommittee with kind of the most current analysis on our impact fee balances, both Quimby and non-Quimby, so that we can help inform decision making. But we do think there's adequate impact fee revenue to pay for either of these options, as was presented by Shana. But the third option would be to pursue grants. The primary funding for parks is through state parks, and there's the just like we obtained grant funding for the basketball court project, we could apply for when they come up at regular intervals, and we do keep track of them. When the next one comes around, that's a per capita basis. The previous one, council dedicated that towards the basketball courts, which was about 180, I think it's almost 190,000. So that is an option. And one I neglected to mention that is also a contributor to funding is measuring the local sales tax. We get about 130,000 annually. Currently, about half of that is dedicated to staffing, and half of it, per council direction, is dedicated to park improvements. And so, that's about 65,000. That's kind of earmarked for park improvements. Obviously, that I think those are earmarked in both the existing budget and next year's budget. Most recently, those have went towards vegetation management, but there's no reason they couldn't be directed towards these types of park improvements. So that's kind of the four primary funding sources. A lot of the parks grants tend to be for very specific things. So we'd be looking at kind of like the per capita grant, because that would be where you could build on to an existing park facility, not necessarily like adding land or there's kind of different pots for different types of park projects depending on the nature of the project. So that's I hope I answered your question.
You did, David, and my current kick that I'm on, it's like, if we have somebody coming and doing a survey or doing a report for the city or trying to sell us equipment, part of that process that I want to see is, tell me what grant money is out there for us to use to get your equipment. So that's why I like to look to the salesperson to do a little homework and kick some tires out there and see if there's money available to help us pay for this.
Sure.
But no, I realize there's grants coming, and that's what I was hoping that this company will do for us in addition to selling us the equipment.
Yeah, that's definitely something we could help with. We have funding resources with Miracle, our parent company, that I could reach out to
Thank you.
do some research too. Be more than happy to do that.
Other than that, that was the only comments that I had to make on that particular item. But I do want us to seriously consider the pickleball. I'm sorry, not the pickleball, the beanbag, and make sure that residents are okay with that. Yes.
Ready? Anybody else got any other comments on that item? Ready to move on? All right, let's move on to one of the attachments also is the benches, number E3, benches, options, and quotes.
And Vice Chair, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
So thank you. She logged off.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'm here.
Here.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and drop off. Just let me know if you need anything else, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay. So the next item has been before the subcommittee in various iterations. We're looking at replacing some of our downtown street furnishings. Primarily, we started this conversation around replacing the trash and recycling facilities with new updated cans that have more secure enclosures, they're more decorative, have a greater capacity. And we presented that at a previous a subcommittee. There was an additional request to look at options for retrofitting some of our existing benches downtown with similar style of street furnishings. We recognize that the benches in particular in the plaza are starting to get a little aged and are necessary for a little TLC, since they are primarily wooden slats. And so in looking at replacements, we really went to the do more style because that particular brand is designed well. They're very sturdy, they're graffiti resistant, they're fire resistant, and they seem to really withstand the test of time. Some of the options that we included in the packet, including a mix of backless, so that would enable a park patron to sit on either side of the bench, face either direction, which I think could be really nice for certain benches that are in the plaza, but even in along the boulevard, and then with the back benches there's an option to have some of those be plaque ready, so that those could support a nice bronze or brass plaque that could be could be dedicated, or a memorial, or a quote or something. Those tend to be a little bit more when you come with a plaque ready, because they do have a kind of a cast in place bracket for that, and the plaque itself is bronze, and made to really be very sturdy. So I know our park superintendent analyzed the benches in downtown, came up with kind of a combination of benches with backs and benches without backs. And Hector, I'll turn it over to you if you want to kind of walk through some of your thoughts on these benches.
Yes, so thank you, David. So we did a complete inventory of the existing benches that we have in our downtown and the plaza. And we came up with a combination of having 6 backless benches that would be placed accordingly around the plaza. So like David mentioned, so folks can sit and turn either direction, especially when you're like at Friday Night Live.
And that was the whole thing, is I've seen
Yeah.
people leaning against looking the opposite way, and I was
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
This is like against the lawn.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
And these benches are very, very strong. Each one of them weighs probably about anywhere from 300 to 400 pounds. You remember?
Yeah.
They're very heavy. They're graffiti resistant, fire resistant, and they're very easy to clean from a maintenance point of view. You simply take a pressure washer out there and hose it down, and they're good. Especially after a Friday Night Live event where there's juice and beer and who knows what on them. You just simply go in there with a pressure washer. So we requested Ross Recreation to give us to provide us with an estimate for a total of 16 benches, including taxes and delivery. 17, yeah, 17, yeah, and so that's your total right there, 33,000.
For how many benches?
17 benches.
And it's a mix and match.
Mix and match, yeah.
That's not too bad.
And 33,000, they give us a discount, they give us the rep gives a discount on the benches.
And I'm sorry, Hector, that would be delivered to the courtyard.
That will be delivered to the courtyard,
And then we
we would install with the help of we can get together with the public works department,
Yeah.
and install a few days.
And then the existing benches could be, renovated and I think some of the wood slats could be replaced.
Yeah.
And then those could be strategically placed within our parks. So it wouldn't be a loss of benches, it would be, or replacement, it would be an addition to. So I think it could be a really nice addition to the plaza. I mean, it's something that we're seeing with the wood materials. Originally it was spec'd as yellow cedar. It's just starting to find the wear of time, and with the Dumore, you're not going to have the same kind of issues with maintenance. But maybe placing these in less used areas, but still provide seating. They might extend their life.
And Hector, what I like about those 17 benches, if I'm hearing you correctly, is they're plaque ready.
Yeah.
So we can buy them, install them, and sell a plaque to somebody 6 months from now. Once we start really marketing them,
Yeah.
that, and let the public know they're out there.
Now, did we come up with a color scheme for anybody decide on that? I mean,
You guys color like the chart here.
look, I like the ones that match Sonoma County bench out there for the bus stop.
The blue.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What do you don't want the 10 different colors out. I mean, honestly, I'm joking.
Then we want the green in the wood grain color.
What's that?
These are them.
Yes, yeah.
Because they're all good. And it's constant, a solid color. It's got the filing order.
Yeah, on board, the specification.
I think generally
It's the same.
our staff recommendation.
Right.
Would be black.
Black.
It tends to
What's up there?
fit in.
Yeah.
It's greenish
Yeah,
metal.
that color right now,
Yeah.
the hunter green.
Yeah, you know what? I think black probably would be better. Blue might light it up.
Like neon lights.
It would. That'd be a lot of blue now that I think about it. So I like black too, now that I think about it. Just try to keep everything, match up with that snow, because theirs is blue for the bus stop, correct? That bench is blue, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you see in Windsor's, they have the same ones. Yeah, in the town green there.
Yeah.
That's green.
They have the backlist strategically located in certain locations, and
Yeah.
it's nice because
They're nice.
you can face in, you can face out, it
One,
gives you a lot more options.
So what are we gonna do? We're gonna order them or what?
Well, we need your recommendation. We don't have this in the budget, so with your recommendation, we would bring this to council and request a budget amendment and purchase authority.
Sure. Let's not give council color options, okay? That's totally black.
Okay.
I was thinking it's just stick with black. That's what they sell pretty much. They always sell black.
Yeah, I'm gonna resend you the quote and then have them put the wording in, where it says color option black.
yeah,
And
And then-
voted on the amendment that.
Yeah, we don't even know options.
and then one
Take
thing,
all that back. I'm sorry.
one thing to know too is that it takes, one thing about Dumore benches.
Yeah.
Is they take about 3 months, to get built, so just keep it.
We want to move, see if we can move quickly.
I think so, we want to quickly get it Friday Night Live.
Maybe just backing up for 1 second, if I could. I forget what the color scheme is in the plaza for the new porta potty, or for the new bathroom.
It's great.
Yeah.
Do
Like a
we
dark gray.
maybe want like couple dark gray ones to kind of match that, or do we just want
You
to?
put the colors on, Mike? Do they have?
There's a texture charcoal, charcoal.
Yeah,
There's a charcoal, Gus, there's a like a regular gray, and then there's a silver.
well, am I the only one that thinks maybe a blend, as opposed to?
What one would match
We're
the?
gonna get texture.
What's that?
Is it texture black?
Texture black is one of the options. The ones we have at Vintage Meadows right now are the forest green.
Yeah.
But black kind of blends in with gray and stuff, so that.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's what you guys want.
Black, I say black, I vote for black.
It's very classic.
Yeah.
Good work.
You'll see it on the consent calendar. Next meeting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, yeah.
We'll probably include with that, a few of the new cans, for the plaza.
Sounds gonna be a phase type thing we talked about, get a few.
Right.
for-
Because I think that was, to do all of them was about 150,000, so we were thinking, we're looking at about maybe two.
Yeah, the plaza,
At the plaza, the dual cans.
2 of them to start off, and then we were thinking about putting one over by Plank. Just strategically, just to like phase 1.
Yeah, they had, but Plank actually requested that a couple.
Didn't down there, Hicks also, Nicole, did she
Yeah.
come forward to say, hey, because I know I've seen her out quite a bit picking up trash.
Yeah,
She went on a phase, if to hook up a business owner, maybe, hey, we'll throw you in on phase 1, 2 type stuff.
Yeah, let's take a look at that, what we have down there, if you recall, I don't know.
It's just the standard.
Just the 10 garbage.
Okay,
We put one in there, and maybe one in the middle, maybe on First Street.
so maybe we'll add 4 to the purchase. We do 2 in the plaza, one by Plank and one by,
See if they work out.
For the dumpster. Oh, you really want to do money, but how we get all the
So 20, right?
park fees.
Park fees, okay.
Yeah.
Baumgarten.
It's right here. It's right here.
Bring it around.
All right, any other comments on benches? We all good? Oops, sorry. Services. All right.
Okay, well, I'll introduce the next item, and
Okay.
then, Hector and Kevin can turn over from there. We, last year, we had a number of, security incidents at Ferber Park. Since then, we've made some building improvements to the door as well as to the snack shack. Since then, we've continued to experience, not so much break-ins, but, graffiti. And, I think there's just a real interest in, getting some eyes on our local parks. Particularly for, they are closed in the evening, to be able to just, provide some monitoring and, if there is any bad actors, that we'll be able to identify those individuals by use of cameras. And so Hector and Kevin worked with a vendor that has a kind of a newer product for the security cameras. And so I want to go ahead and turn it over. With the thought was looking at adding, of course, Ferber is kind of front of mind, because that's where we've had the most activity. But there's also interest in cameras at Clark Park, because we've also had graffiti there. And then most recently, council also expressed interest in cameras as part of improvement of the new dog park. Have some eyes on there. These probably would be different than what we have on the plaza. But you want to talk to you?
Thanks, David. Yeah, so, yeah, like David mentioned, we had some activity there at Ferber Park. Since then, we've installed security blinds over the windows. We had a few break-ins where the vandals stole the kids' candy bars and $30 worth of money. It was unfortunate, but so we've added some security blinds on the windows, and then we added some security lights, which the security lights have been a complete success so far with motion detectors. So if the vandal tries to come near the building, the lights will then trigger. And the last thing we added on the budget was, which we don't have enough money in there, but we added some security cameras on the structure. And the plan was to add a security camera in the front of the building and then a security camera in the back of the building. The one nice thing about this Verkada cameras is that you don't need a monitor, and we can play back up to a whole year. And it has some one of the features on it, which is really cool, is that if it senses somebody trying to break in, it'll alert the police department, and the police department will drive over there. We are going to need some type of iPad or small monitor at the police department. Lieutenant Parker has been involved in some of these meetings as well, which I think in the long run will be a great asset to the park. And I think my plan in the future is to have each park equipped with camera system, that way. We can have eyes, like David mentioned, after hours and monitor the park's activity, even in the weekends. Of course. The price for this camera, to have two of them at Cloverdale Park is roughly about. $15,000. We do have about $8,000 in the budget for this, so we have about half of it for now. And then we added another couple cameras there at Clark Park where we had some vandalism and some graffiti as well, and that's roughly about another $15,000.
So what's the total there?
For both of them, it's roughly about a little bit over 30.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, we've got them down at Burger Park for a couple of months and we decided we're gonna move them. No problem taking them down.
Yeah, we can, there's actually, they offer, Ricotta actually offers a program that they can come out here and install them for you for free and keep them for a couple months. And if we decide we don't want them, we don't want them to take them back. Yeah.
That's not bad.
But we'd have to sign up for the program. I don't have all the details for it, but that's something we can look into.
So it's a purchase as opposed to lease.
Right, like the purchase.
Yeah, it's almost like if we did a lease situation. You know, it might be a little more on an ongoing basis, but. You know, the lens breaks or something, they come out and replace it, you know.
Yeah.
But
And that's one of the things we check on as far as availability of maintenance, people that can come and fix them, and they're everywhere. So they would come in and repair them as needed if we need to. But really at Herbert Park, we have a hot budget. Half the budget, and we originally had a little bit more money in there, but we didn't anticipate that the security lines were going to be so expensive. And so we have some money there, and then we just need to replace the mover and need to add stuff at Clark Park. Clark Park, we already have a post hole up there to put them into the saving money off of installation.
Would the ones at Ferber be, I mean, the front and back of the building, could you see the parking lot too?
Yep. You would see the parking lot. Actually, that was one of the things we talked about, because then we can monitor illegal dumping of trash into those dumpsters.
Yeah, say, because I've noticed a lot of people too, and you probably wouldn't be able to see it. It's kind of hard to monitor, but they're going up Hot Springs Road now. Last time I ran up there now, it used to be the big cistern up there was full of probably 1,000 tires.
Yeah.
Now that's filled in and that's taken care of, but now every little pullout. Washers, dryers, you name it. So it's like, I try to keep an eyeball, but you know.
does the county know about, you let them,
Yeah,
we let Gore know about that, I'm sure.
and the Rangers know about it and, you know, what they can't rely much.
Oh, that's
You touch that.
the view says so it's required that we buy a license to view this.
Okay.
This provide this system, and that allows us to view the content up to a year.
Yeah. And with that, kind of with these systems, is that I would assume it's a cloud-based.
It is.
Okay, so it's not hard drives.
No, it's not hard drive. No equipment that's needed. One of the things you can do, it's an app too. You can just get an app and get alerts. You can get alerts as somebody crosses that barrier line.
Beautiful.
So it's got like a motion sensor, which would be good.
Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge that we are confronted with is our parks don't have dedicated internet service. So these particular cameras have connections via cell service to the internet, and that, so that's part of the cost of paying for that that connection.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, we would get to a point where we had internet services, you know, to all of our parks, but that's a big expense in and of itself, just getting that internet service. So part of this cost is and this technology allows for it, is that they have cellular connections to upload that video feed in real time.
That's, I like it.
Yeah, I like it too, and I'm glad to see that you've got Chris Parker coming on board early. And of course, that just makes sense to bring them in.
Yeah.
The thing that always concerns me, you know, a lot of times it's always a good deal. And then a couple of months down the road, we find out we need a new light bulb or something, and they don't make the light bulbs anymore. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we're not buying outdated technology. Or leasing it, or whatever we decide we're gonna do with it. And then lastly, talking about the Ferber Park, and I don't know whether I mentioned this to you before or not, Hector, but on the south side, as you come over that little footbridge from the parking lot, there's a couple of electrical outlets on that wall that are missing the plates.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you
I
replaced
think they're
them.
replaced already. But let me-
Okay.
let me double check.
Or I don't know if somebody was trying to get juice or.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think we got,
Cell phones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we got replaced from already. Let me check.
it's on that south side there, that's creek side.
Yeah.
I like it because I think that the cameras are definitely long overdue.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna sit there no matter what you put up Ferber, it's gonna get tagged, it's just an easy. I mean, boom, they shoot out of there, I hear them down there all the time, you know what I mean? Okay, so. Again, I guess the question is, I'm glad Parker's involved too, because then that might mean a little accountability, because you can be armed with all kinds of stuff. And if you don't have any accountability with the police, then it's kind of a waste of time. But if they, Parker's involved, I'm all about it.
Yeah, he was part of all the Zoom meetings and he really likes the system. And I think they might even think that might even get some of this similar type of system for their.
Right, anybody else got anything on that one? Good. All right. Yeah. Okay, let's do, we don't have, let's skip to not skip to the new business number 5 is Public Works, the water website.
All right, but Chair, this is relates to work that our city clerk has been doing with, all of the city departments is working to upgrade and update our website to keep it very current with content. And as part of that effort, not only content, but making it more user friendly. And we previously presented the update to the website to update the community on all the parks elements. And Mike has coordinated with our public works team, both Director Montani and Tech Spagnola on updating the public works website, which probably has the most significant amount of content. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you want to share screen or.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen in a second.
It's your moment. Yeah, it's your moment.
Right, so most of you are pretty familiar with our website as is. You can all see it right now. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little bit more of the broader strokes really quickly, just so you can see some of the content that's changed on our website, particularly to the departments page. Like David mentioned earlier, we originally did most of our edits kind of as a test to the Parks and Recreation department. So this is kind of the new style that we're looking at, where it's a little more photo-centric, a little easier to find for the public. It's one of the goals, primarily part of our outreach and our marketing campaign of just getting people to the website, making it more user-friendly, find the content that they're interested in. And one of the things that's, been the primary change is kind of just the style of these pages. So they're all built with, an initial paragraph kind of explaining what this department does, immediately to contact information, and then into photo-centric squares that basically are all links. So if you click on any one of these, it brings you to that information. So moving into the department that we're speaking about today, we basically previously had a public works site. It didn't have all of the links right here in water. So we're going to go over both of those separately. And that's one of the things I want to discuss, just so you guys are aware. Part of this was for transparency to the public so that they have an easier way to find things. Public Works and Water, as you know, are one department. But on the website, we wanted to break it up a little bit, similar to how we did right now in the org chart. Parks and Rec is technically under Development Services, but folks in the public wouldn't know to go there. So we wanted to really break it out and just to be able to show and demonstrate, and like I said, so people can find the content that they're looking for. So one of the major changes that we've made recently was to break up the two services. So we broke it into Public Works, which is primarily public right-of-ways, engineering services, things like that, and Water, which has things like Pay My Bill, and then the water and sewer services, water conservation, everything to do with water. And that is a trend that's happening in many of the cities within Sonoma County. So we're kind of aligning ourselves with that naming convention. So just so you know, it is still one department, but we're breaking it up by services. So I'm going to go through the Public Works one first. And as I go into the individual pages, our city engineering technician Spagnola is going to go ahead and give a little bit more information, as well as Director Montagna, so that we can make sure that you have all the information that you need and give any suggestions that you have for the page, because it is new. I do want to mention these little headers up here. In the next few months, you'll notice that'll be a change as well. Soon, when you're on, for example, the Public Works page, the picture up here that currently is just the vines, because it's matching, it's zooming in kind of on our main, home page photo. When you go to Public Works, this picture will be Public Works specific. So you really feel like you're in the content of Public Works. If you go to the water page, it'll be water specific. If you go to Parks and Rec, it'll be a Parks and Rec specific photo. And part of that is just kind of the branding and making it really feel like when you enter that department, you're really in the pages that you're wanting to be in. So Public Works, we got a paragraph going on basically what the Public Works Department is. One of the things that we're trying to add to these paragraphs that will be updated soon, more in the next few weeks, hopefully, is things like we're kind of giving ourselves kudos, showing how many miles of public right of ways we have, how many, like on the water page, for example, see like how X miles of sewer, things like that, just so the public can really understand, or anybody looking at our site, the enormity of what such small crews are doing. So we're kind of trying to not necessarily toot our own horn, but really just be transparent about the amount of work that gets done with the smaller amount of crews that we have. So moving through this, you'll see that we have the different boxes that we felt were pertinent to the Public Works Department. Most folks tend to go in immediately for, streetlights, traffic signal issues, stormwater protection information, public right-of-way information. We have some spills and dumping. So if somebody wants information on that, resources and initiatives, capital improvements, engineering services. Volunteer opportunities is something that I'm sure Councilmember Wheeler will want to discuss when we get on that box. Report an issue is a big one. That's, you have a pothole or a street light out, things like that. Report an issue, subcommittee links, a link to the weekly newsletter, because we're really trying to get more subscribers to that, because the content is so informative. And as hopefully all of you are subscribed to it, you can see that there's a lot of information about each department weekly. So we really want to navigate people there, and then I meet the staff, which I'll discuss in a second. But these 4 on the bottom are basically consistent across the site for each department. So that's if on the parks page, they ever report an issue, the photo might be different, but it's really that way their issue goes to the correct folks. And we're trying to move into that virtual era. Previously, people had to either call and go through a phone tree or come in and fill out a piece of paper. They still have that ability, but we're making it a little bit more virtual. So as of right now, you click on, for example, I'll work my way up, report an issue. You have some boxes you can fill out, and there's a whole drop down of different issues that Public Works would be able to help you with. This is temporary. Eventually, our goal is to get our service request module fully operational. But in the meantime, this similar to Parks, but when you go to the Parks one, has a bunch of different issues that the Parks Department would be able to help you with. So I'm going to go ahead and let Bobby take over and go ahead and let me which square you want to click on, and we can go into a little bit of the details. I don't want to spend too much time because we have a whole other department or another division of water to discuss. But at this time, when Bobby's going over it, if you as a subcommittee have anything that you think should be added, I know Derek also has a list of items of things that he'd like to see on here that we're going to slowly be incorporating. And I just want to remind folks that with the website, one of the great parts about it is that it's fluid. It's always advancing. It's always changing. We can always change content, update content, switch out photos. We want to make sure that we have the most relevant information to the public, because this is our outward facing site. So with that, I'll go ahead and give it to you, Bobby, if you want to tell me where to navigate you.
Thank you, Mike. So kind of to reiterate what Mike's talking about as well too, with a lot of the work that Mike has put into this, I've been working with him as well, is the big connection essentially with the city of Cloverdale. There is a lot of importance when it comes to the actual pictures. It's specific things in Cloverdale. It's not just a stock photo. That's something that will give that idea. There's some that we are still working on, but essentially to make that connection with our residents that want to come and take a look and see what we do. So if you can go to streetlights and traffic signals, a lot of times, and essentially when I've been working with Mike on this, going through the webpage and looking at what we had is make it make sense. Make it to where people can understand it, they know where to go, the things that they're interested in, instead of trying to find kind of little blurbs or blips that might be in there. So the big thing, like Mike has reiterated as well, is splitting this stuff out and making it just a little bit easier to do. So we're going to come in, and as you can see right now, we have a lot of the information that still needs to be put in there, a lot of the stuff that needs to be implemented. That'll be something that I will be working on in the next couple of weeks, going over and adding this stuff in there. You know, it's very interesting that you'll get a lot of people that have a lot of questions like, hey, you know, what goes on over here? This is, you know, this light's out, or the street light has an issue. I don't know exactly where to go or what to do to get any information or follow up, or even put in a service request. But also too, like going into stormwater protection. So a lot of this stuff was kind of spread out through the webpage, but now it's all put into one section. So people know where to go when they want to figure out like streets to creeks, or what that program is about and how they can get involved. It also goes through like the RWA and their requirements and what they have for us that, you know, when it comes to stormwater and what we need to do. So let's go, thank you, Mike. Let's go back. Public right-of-ways, and I'll touch on this just a little bit. This is a big thing that I think gets a lot of confusion from resident to, you know, city. Essentially is, what is our right-of-way? Where do we have, where does it end, where does it begin? Going through, and what we will do is we'll be putting in information to essentially explain that, how it breaks down, what are easements, what rights or what certain things do you have in your private area or certain spots, or what are certain things that you don't, where you might have to look into getting approval from the city. If you want to,
where it says, say, just sorry to cut in, Bobby, where it says under construction, that means that that's content that previously wasn't on our website, but we find that we do know there's content out there that we want to put on here. So that's
Right.
things in the next few weeks that are going to get populated. So it's obviously the goal is not to have it be like this for long. What we did a lot of merging of information and content that was kind of spread all over the website. And like Bobby said, we put it into one area, so it kind of makes sense. But in here, for example, if it says like streets and crosswalks, people will be like, oh, my street's getting damaged by this tree, who's responsible? We're gonna have information there that it may have a link that brings you somewhere else on the site, but it's much more easily like you can navigate it a lot easier for somebody who doesn't understand, like, is it public works, is it parks? Like it might be under parks as well, but it's going to navigate you to the same site, which means less editing and less upkeep and maintenance for us on the back end. But so I just want to let you know that once the content's in here, which it will be soon, it's going to be a lot easier for folks to understand who's responsible for what department needs to do what and what they need to do next. So we're gonna provide a lot of next steps, graphics, things like that. A lot of these photos are just kind of fillers for now, but we did want to go live with this as soon as possible for the consistency of the site. But just wanted to add that. Sorry about it.
no, you're perfect. Thank you. And then another part with that as well, as Mike saying, is once we started going in and looking at everything, we realized how much was lacking. So this is a great way to go through and say, hey, these are the things that we need to add. There are certain items that, you know, like we're going over to public right-of-ways where it doesn't have information. And it comes to streets and stuff like that. People don't, you know, if you don't provide it, people don't know. So Mike and I, especially Mike, he's put a lot of work into this, gone through, make it something that's really, really easy to understand, easy to use. And also too, if you're looking for capital improvements, you want to see what's going on in the city, what has been planned. Like, as we all know, we got grant money essentially for these streets, sidewalks, certain things that are coming up that we definitely need to do. And that would be information that I think that the residents would really, really want to see in here. Because we do get a lot of reports of, hey, you know, streets, sidewalks are looking a little rough. We have some popped up areas over here. There's some things that we need to address. And then Councilmember Chair Wheeler, is there anything that you would like to discuss on the volunteer opportunities? I know we had talked about this. We had a great meeting about it.
No, I don't really have, I know there's folks interested in it.
Yes.
And so that's about the extent of it right now. But back to what you're saying is they don't know, what do I do? Cool, I'll volunteer, and there they are.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So if there's some type, I don't know if it's a sign up thing or it's a neighborhood thing, or it's ever evolving type deal, you know what I mean? So, I think what it would be is if there was something in there, maybe a form that said, yes, I'd like to volunteer. You record, you know, we find out who's gonna do it, like maybe the neighborhood they're in or yada, yada, yada type stuff and what they need. We could probably kick it off a little, just like right there, location, you know, those, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this was the initial goal, was kind of piggyback off of what we're doing with parks. You know, obviously the page will look like this once we kind of decided how we want to do it, but I think staff's recommendation right now would just be to, you know, do something, maybe it's quarterly or every other month, but it's obviously up to you as a subcommittee, how you want this to really go. But I think, you know, having a section of the city or an area of the city or a project, having that location, date and time and letting people come if they're interested, because getting that buy-in from the public, as we've discussed, is really important. But I think, yeah, copying something like this, but it doesn't have to mimic Parks and Rec, but the volunteer opportunities page will be like that. It'll have a waiver of some kind and, you know, different proposals for things that they want to help out. Things we do need to identify as a group, or, you know, the Public Works Department needs to identify what projects that the public can help on, you know, that, you know, making a same thing we do with parks. There's certain things that we want our staff to do. We don't want the public necessarily involved in, but there's a lot of things that we do. So I think that's what this page will, once it's built, we'll definitely have all of your input added in there so we can make it come to life.
And Hector here, Mike. First of all, I want to thank Mike for all the help. I know he spent hours and hours putting that parks web together. And just to give everybody just a little update of how it's been working, it's been working out great. You know, Mike showed that screen, and I don't know if you could take us back to that where we had the adopt a park page there, that right there. So we've been you know, the last 2 sessions we've had a total of 7 volunteers.
Oh, nice.
So they came in on January 21st, they came in February 24th, and that one coming up, we'll see. So far we got 1 that's signed up, and it's as simple as they, for the most part, they email me directly, and then I give them the volunteer waiver that's on the page. They fill it, and then just they come out and help us, and we pretty much decide what type of projects, depending on the park's needs. That's it right there, and it's been, and I just filed it, and it's been a big success. You can see some of those pictures on my weekly reports and my weekly newsletter. So it's been great. So thanks, Mike, again for that. And the other thing that's been a big success with the Parks Department is service request forms. In the past, we would do they'd come in here and would take, you know, staff time from office staff to write them and then send them, and then so now they go directly on the park website, which is really very easy for us and for them. It's just as simple as that. And we go out there. If there's any arborist requests, I'm getting a lot of those lately, or any other park requests or maintenance requests, they can just go in there and it gets addressed as soon as possible.
I think that's what Hector brings up a good point, is that when we got to, you know, kind of use Parks and Rec as a guinea pig, we proved that it works well. The content being, you know, more concise, split up, it's much more informative to the public, and we're getting more involvement, which is really the goal here, especially for our outward facing website. So for the sake of time, is there anything else on Public Works that you wanted to discuss, Bobby, before I move over to water, or Derek?
You want to, is there anything you want to discuss?
Nope, we can go to water.
Mike, the one thing I would say is, we have the GIS, you might wanna put a link.
If you go to engineering
It
services,
can be on all the webs, all the.
Yeah, so that's a good point, and that actually points to something I wanted to discuss. So if you go, for example, engineering services, it's one of their resources, I believe. And then also under resources and initiatives, this is a section, almost every page has a resources and initiatives, and that's one where once this is not under construction, those lists, like, I agree, they need to be all over the website. Another thing that's new to the website, and I'll kind of jump, is this how do I page. This is not something that was with us previously, but I've seen it with a few municipalities, especially in our county. So I've recently created the how do I, and it's continuously getting updated as I have time. But one of those was find GIS and parcel information. It's also located here, and I really do think that it's okay to have duplicative information if it's always leading you to the same place.
Yeah.
Previously, we had the information kind of spread out all over, and it often was bringing to a one-off page or a broken link. And that's something that, you know, if you click on, for example, this GIS and parcel information here on the how do I page versus one of the department specific GIS pages, it's always going to bring you to the same place. And that's something that it sounds like, you know, just adding some pictures to a website, that was actually the quicker lift. The heavier lift was navigating the website from the back end and really cleaning it up so everything brings you to the same place. So when you update that spot, it updates in the same, like across the site. So that's been one of my goals. And there's still a lot of work to be done, but I agree with you, Kevin. That's essential. And I think that adding those in different spots is essential to the success of this website. Any other comments or questions or anything else before I move over to water?
Real quick on the volunteer opportunities, it is part of our stormwater permit that the city is required to encourage the public to participate in cleanup activities. And so creek cleanup, it's all entirely likely that park cleanup activities would satisfy some of that. Anyways, that's kind of low hanging fruit and would really nicely fit in with the permit compliance.
I agree. That's a
Hey,
good
real
idea.
quick, Mike, now that I think about when you mentioned the stream cleanup. I don't know how hard it would be to put a little information in there on what, you know, when there's water flowing, you know, you can't really get down into one of the creek beds, or when they're dry, you can do that. And I guess the question is, maybe a little information with basic rules or laws of what they can do, because I know I've heard a lot of folks mentioning, hey, can we just run down there and cut this and do that? And oh, no, you can't. There's a lot of things, and it might be something to put in there, just basic information on what you can and can't do. If water's flowing, you can't be within 10 feet, for example, or whatever the rules are. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so, and I would think something like that too, just to alleviate any potential liability
Right.
from the city, is refer them to Fish and Game's page.
Yeah.
That gives them all the parameters for gaining access and how to do that, as opposed to us posting something there. So.
Because half the battle, you're pulling the reins back on some really hardcore citizens. They're like, I'm gonna go save the world, and it's, no, you can't. And then they're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want to know. I don't know if that's something to put in there, but it might be.
Put it on the
That's-
parks
yeah.
webpage.
Exactly, let them know
Yeah.
you can't, you can't do this, so.
Just a breakdown
Yeah,
essentially.
that's a good idea. And I can work with the public works staff on where that best is appropriate to go, or if it's another box needed, or yeah, it's all great. I'm gonna jump over to water. So if you jump to the water department, same look, same feel. This paragraph is gonna get added a bit more to as far as the metrics go. We're working with the folks over at the water treatment plant, wastewater plant, just to give us some of those metrics. And I know something Derek and Bobby are working on. So that'll get uploaded soon. Again, same idea, just to kind of give ourselves some kudos on the amount of infrastructure we actually have and maintain with a relatively smaller crew. So we on these pages also, as you notice, we have the after hour emergency, because it's often something people can't find those things and they don't know who to call. So we're given the basic contact information always up here at the right. On this page, one of the things that we wanted to really do was, people often will go like, I want to pay my water, where do I go? They may not know to go to finance, or you know, how do I do it? So we wanted to really make that a focus. And one of the main reasons, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, instead of going, you know, public works there with your utility billing or utility this. We've had a few discussions internally, and the reason some of the other cities have moved in this direction away from utilities, because we don't provide all utilities. You know, we don't do cable, we don't do PG&E, we don't, you know, gas and electric. We do water. We do water and sewer, things to do with water. So it's one of the reasons that we want to do that. And that's why I kind of make it simple, just pay my bill, or billing and service information with a photo that is also, you know, kind of in line with those features of water, like water conservation, showing, you know, our the retainer, I can't even remember the word for these, but I've been saying that for weeks. Anyway, so moving on. The point is, if you want to pay your bill online, you click that. I'm just gonna get these out of the way really quick, but it brings you right to our server, the service module to be able to do that. So you can either sign up to pay, make a one-time payment, or log in if you're a recurring customer with that, if you haven't set up an auto payment. But we wanted that right front and center. We know that it's not necessarily a service that Public Works does, because it's our finance team that is our utility billing team. But it's okay to be on these sites because people will be like, I need to pay my water. Oh, look, water department, boom, boom, really quickly can navigate where they need to go to find the information they need. So you'll see that crossover throughout the site if you ever start playing around with all the departments. But that's, like I said, they're all going to go to one page. So if you click that, it goes to that module. But if you click on billing and service information, it's going to bring up a whole bunch of finance information. You know, it's not really the things that Derek and Bobby work on in their crews throughout the day, but it's essential to the water department. It's, how they get their water and sewer service. So those pages, previously were kind of under finance. So I broke them apart, and now the links on finance also come here. Water comes here. So I just wanted you to be aware of those two links. Otherwise, basically the same. Report an issue, brings this subcommittee meeting link, brings you to a page that describes. I'll go over that really quick since we didn't do it on Public Works page, but it brings you to the City Council Subcommittee page, which gives you the information about what this subcommittee does and when it meets and how to get the agendas. Again, that's on every page because we really want to funnel people to the correct information that they're looking for. Same with the weekly newsletter. And I'll go ahead and give it over to Bobby and Derek so they can discuss these items.
So to kind of further on this a little bit more, one of the things that when Mike and I were going through and looking at my water bill, we just kind of stumbled across, oh wow, you can set it up for automatic payment, but we had to dig in to find that. Like finding that link was on another page, that was on another page, that was on another page. So what Mike has gone through and done is essentially consolidated that just to put it into one section and also to give you the options of what you can do. The big thing that I want to touch on this page is that it's going back to the meet the staff, and we have it both on this one and also to Public Works. Having our residents understand that for wastewater, we have 2 guys, we have water treatment, we have 2 guys, and that will tie back to the meet the staff to essentially, it kind of puts the name and the face out there. This is who does your water treatment. This is who does the wastewater side. And we have 2 gentlemen that take care of this on a regular basis. Really, like Mike was saying, essentially putting it out there to say, hey, this is what we do. This is how we're involved.
As you can see on our parks page and their meet the staff, it kind of just explains like we have 2 full-time, 1 part-time. I gotta get a photo of our new part-time employee, or I think he's full-time now. Anyway, like I said, always fluid. We'll be doing some updates soon. But it kind of explains, puts a face to the name. We also want to add a feature on here of to add kudos, so that folks, when they see Miguel out there doing something awesome, or somebody's working, when these guys are out there, their water crew is out digging a hole, working really hard and restored their water, or did work with the public, they can add some kudos and send those out to the staff, to the supervisors, so they're aware of those things and they can kind of know like, oh, that was Craig who did this, or that was I don't know, Kurt who did this, or whatever it is. But we're, like Bobby was saying, these 2 pages are going to bring to one, because it is one department. It's going to be Derek at the top, followed by, and we're going to break it up by division. So go ahead, Bobby. Sorry to cut you off.
You're good. But I mean, that's where I'm at right now. Essentially, Mike covered a good portion of it. And I, gone through and kind of dug in and just give you guys an idea of where we're going and what we're looking at to make it a lot better, a lot user friendly, to make it easy.
Good, you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. That's killer.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So if there's anything that you guys ever think is essential, you can definitely let me know. If there's content that you don't see on there, I'll go ahead and forward that to the department heads, because one of my goals is to build these pages. But then there's folks like, for example, Hector is maintaining his site. Bobby and Derek are going to maintain theirs that way, because I don't necessarily have the capacity to do that on an ongoing basis. I'm always willing to help, but, one of the big goals for me is I have other departments that I need to move on to next. So Public Works and Water, but again, since I'm your primary contact as a city clerk, feel free to always, send me information. I'll get it to the right folks so they can edit or add, or have internal discussions of where content should or shouldn't be and where it's most appropriate. But that's our website now. It is live. And I definitely encourage all of you to, take a look at it.
If there's any questions, there's anything that you guys would like to see, any additions? Thank you.
Comments?
And I do have one question is, do you think it's appropriate? I know Parks and Rec, we did it, mostly because recreation was new. With the seed money from council, is it worth sending this to council as anything for them to see, or we can just send them a memo to take a look at it? We can do a much smaller presentation than we did today at the subcommittee level, but I'm just curious if it's something you think council would be interested in, or.
Absolutely, why not? Let them see what's going on.
Maybe when they're all done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when everything's complete, yeah.
Cool, then I'll put that in. Bobby and Derek, let me know, go ahead, once the content's all in there, let me know, and we'll get it scheduled for council.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Any other comments on that? All righty, and then we'll move on to, let's see here, fire hydrant curb painting, I'll mention that one. No, that's, I had a meeting with, the vice principal and Nora, I believe is a health person this morning with them. Mentioned that you have, Hector, you have some projects too, and we're gonna try to combine them. He said for the curb painting, most likely it would be juniors and seniors. So they're gonna also have teachers that would be doing the supervising. I mentioned that, yeah, city staff may be able to provide some cones, or things like that, maybe set out the cones just while they're doing that area. And he wanted to know which area would be preferred to concentrate on first. And I said, probably from Napa right there. And I think there's only 6 or 7 fire hydrants going up, and one section up to 3rd Street on the west side where the redwoods are. That's kind of just north of Edward Jones there. That section is no parking right there. And, I told him you're looking at probably 15 minutes to max of 30 minutes to complete the 15 feet that it is in front of those fire hydrants. And he said, perfect. Would we, myself and maybe a couple other people be willing to volunteer on that day? So absolutely. Come down and give people a hand. So it looks like that may take off, plus some of the stuff that that Hector had going on at the parks might be, freshman, junior. I don't know exactly how he's gonna split it up yet, but it looks like that might kick off. I told him the whole goal of that was, let's try to get this downtown area done prior to the beginning of Friday Night Live type stuff and the nice weather and everybody starting to come down here and just get this boulevard done. In combination of hopefully the new garbage cans and the new benches, and then people in Cloverdale are like, wow, things are happening, you know what I mean? As long as they get the main vein down here figured out.
Yeah.
That's good, we'll start branching out from there. And I mentioned to him, this is by no means, this is something that's gonna happen in 6 months. We're looking at a year and a half of, volunteer opportunities in doing this. So he was on board with it. And I think honestly, it'll probably kick off. Hoping we have nice weather on that for the morning. I mean, it's only a morning thing, 9 to 12. So I think it'll kick off pretty good, and we may see some pretty good results from the kids on here, so hopefully, fingers crossed on that.
Do you have a date? Is it March?
May 12th.
Oh, May 12th.
Yeah.
City will do an audit. We've already done an audit on products, and then we're gonna do an audit on products needed.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna have to do the waivers.
Yeah, I can get you some.
Yeah, we're gonna get waivers by people, and then we're gonna have to do some type of traffic safety in the work area, like you said.
Yeah.
Probably safety vests and stuff like that.
That's what they mentioned. And I said, well, yes, safety vests probably don't, they're all gonna be 3X or probably the like dresses, but that's fine. As long as they got one, you know what I mean? So.
Since we're on the subject for the parks, this would be probably the 14th year that they've come out to the parks and help. And what I'm planning on doing for that day is, we got to meet the fall protection standards for the park playground structures. So we're gonna provide, which is in the budget, we're gonna provide some certified wood chips on some of the playground structures, and we're gonna have kids. That's a project that we would do, so that would have to save us some time, and we can move on to different projects, so we'll have the kids spread mulch, which would be easy for them, and then we'll just be there supervising and helping out. So we would be doing that, and then we also we're gonna have them pick up, pick up trash. We have picker uppers, we have, out in the river park, cemetery. And we'll just, as far as debris goes, we're gonna be picking up debris. We will be, I guess we would be, helping them, hauling off the debris as well, so that we can, I can talk to Derek and see if we get decent assistance, so we can work together. And get some free labor as kids.
Well, and hopefully they see how much work goes into
Yeah.
maintaining these parks, so they're not the first guy to go
Yeah,
tossed out, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not guaranteeing anything, but you never know. So.
I know, Hector, you always take pride in companies coming, whether it be for the Citrus Fair Parade and Friday Night Live, and I really appreciate your focus on that. One of the areas that also needs attention, and sometimes it slips through the cracks, is the parking lot behind the movie theater. Weeds and mulch, and the same with the one behind the Druids building. Just kind of spruce it up, and that would be great for the kids to do too.
Yeah.
Pull some weeds and lay some mulch there. So, and are we still getting the redwood chips and wood chips from Wayne?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, he's delivered as, so what I've been doing is, so just ready to drive around the parks and see a bunch of piles of wood out, wood chips. Wayne just delivers them whenever he can. So, and what we've been doing, which is a lot, what we've been doing is we've been saving those piles for volunteer opportunities or for us to fill in work. Let's say if we finish a project sooner, if we had to schedule a project from, for instance, from 9 to 12, and we finish at 11, then we all go out there and work on those piles. We're using it as buffer fill-in work.
Gotcha.
For the park. So no, that's great. That's free mulch, and after a while, that's that decomposes, and it looks just like the regular mulch.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Good, thank you.
Anything else on that one? Okay, grant her one right there. All righty, seven, yeah, citywide street striping plan, and we do have there's a attachment on that one also.
Yeah, I'll start this one, Vice Chair. So there's actually two attachments in your packet. One is a report that was prepared by a firm called Capital Asset and Pavement Services, or CAPS. This was actually paid for by grant funding through MTC, and it's a really comprehensive report. They literally did an assessment of every street in Cloverdale to identify what's called the PCI, it's the pavement condition index. And every year MTC publishes a PCI report for all cities in the Bay Area, and it gives us kind of corresponding rating. So this year MTC did fund this effort. It probably saved us about $20,000 at least to have them prepare the report on our behalf. Vanessa's going to talk about that in a second. The other item that it was included in the packet is the 90% design drawings for the restriping of Cloverdale Boulevard. This subcommittee previously reviewed, or had a robust discussion around the need for restriping, and the direction was to get striping plans prepared for not only the Boulevard but Treadway and Foothill. The Treadway and Foothill are still in process, but the 90% design drawings for the Boulevard are now done. They're under review by our city engineer in consultation with our public works director. But before we go there, really want to take a look, give an overview of this, I'll call it PCI or pavement management budget options report. And Mike, can you go to that map real quick? You passed it up real, there we go. Go back. Yeah, there, perfect. So this just gives you a high level overview of the, the categorization of our pavement conditions throughout every street and road in Cloverdale. Luckily, a lot of roads come up green, which means very good, or blue. And likewise, there are some poor or very poor roads, and we all kind of know where those are. Certainly around Jefferson Elementary School, North Washington areas where we know we have very poor pavement conditions. And likewise Tarman, and we hear that from the neighbors and the residents. Luckily, there's a lot of other streets that identify who pavement conditions are in, in fairly good condition. But Vanessa's going to share you at least what I think is a little bit of a shocking number in terms of what it will take to bring our PCI index up, and that's a clear objective that a number of cities are trying to take to improve their pavement conditions, given the limited funding available for road improvements. So Vanessa, I want to turn it over to you, and if you want anything you want to highlight about the pavement management budget options report and or the striping plans.
Okay, let's see. I've got one here that's marked up, so I'm gonna share screen here. Hopefully that worked. Can you guys see this report? Very good. Okay. So just a couple of things here. Throwing it out there, the city street network consists of about 32 centerline miles. And so that translates to roughly, 60 plus lane miles, assuming 2 lanes. We are looking at an average current PCI of 60, which they've designated in a fair condition. The shocking number David was talking about was per this report and their unconstrained budget and their recommended path forward is approximately 31 million over the next 5 years to bring the street network into an optimal condition of about 84, PCI of 84. And then in this summary table here, there's a quick discussion, a bit of a deep dive into what the different options are. And so this report looked at 4 scenarios. The unconstrained budget of 31 million is considered scenario 1. We have the city's current funding level is, as you know, city council approved about 100,000 in street funding. And then we're looking at another 100,000 through Measure M funding on an annual basis. And then some select projects that we were looking at. So that translated to about 1.4 million over the next 5 years. And then they also looked at what about maintaining the current pavement condition index at a level of 60. And so that was another scenario that was analyzed. And lastly, the 4th scenario would increase the overall pavement condition index by 5 points over the next 5 years. And so, I don't know that we need an answer today, but as it's laid out here, the current funding level is going to result in a decline over the next 5 years. And so they are making a recommendation that we increase funding efforts for pavement. Now, this is strictly pavement. There's nothing in this report about striping, nothing about sidewalks, curb and gutter. It is all strictly asphalt paving. Okay, and real quick, the intent of the program is to develop a maintenance strategy that will improve the overall condition of the network to an optimal level. And that's why they've come forward with this 31 million recommendation, because that's the goal of this program. Okay, let's see, really quick, I want to direct you here to table 3 and figure 2. These just talk about what the current condition is of the pavement. Arterials, we're doing pretty good. There's a total of about more than half of the arterials are in good condition. We've got 17% in fair condition, and we've got, roughly almost 30% in poor or very poor condition. one of the key elements to keeping pavement repair upkeep, I guess, in the good or fair range categories. This is kind of an argument that if streets that are in good or fair condition are left unmaintained, they can deteriorate pretty quickly. Whereas streets that are in poor or very poor condition, they don't have anywhere to go. So the deterioration doesn't progress. And so the objective here is to focus on streets that are in good or fair condition and keep those in good or fair condition, rather than allocate a bunch of resources to streets that are poor or very poor. And so that's kind of how the report is laid out and how their recommendations are assessed here. This is again kind of that shocking number there. The pavement management program is recommending a funding level of 30.91 million over the 5-year period. But they do give us a deep dive into the different scenarios. Here they are on page 8 of the report in a little bit more information and what those scenarios look like. Again, we've got the unconstrained budget, we've got the current investment level, we've got maintaining the current pavement condition index, or we've got increasing the condition index by 5 points over the next 5 years. And then there's a table that kind of just summarizes that. They lay out this information in a few different ways. And then the following pages goes through the different deep dives of these scenarios. They provide tables and bar charts, just different ways to kind of lay out and understand the information. And let's see, they've got a bunch of recommendations in here. And so I thought this was good. I'm not aware that this is something the city has, but they are recommending that the city implement a cost-effective slurry and crack seal program. And this is ideally a way to keep the streets that are in good or fair condition in that good and fair condition. So they're talking about the use of thin overlays to rehabilitate streets would be a second priority, followed by thick overlays on poor streets being a lower priority, and then failed streets would be the last priority, just to kind of go in with the deterioration and keeping the pavement condition index as high as possible. Currently, 18% of the street network is in very poor condition. This is likely to increase slightly in 5 years if the current funding levels continue. And this is where they call out that this conclusion is noteworthy to the city council. Unless increased funding is allocated, we may lose the opportunity to utilize these lower cost preventative maintenance and light overlay treatment options. And so at some point we are going to be, maybe looking for the subcommittee to provide a little bit of guidance and how we want to move forward with this. But for now, we've got the current funding. It is what it is. And I'll be looking to potentially develop some projects based on the current funding level, which translates into scenario 2 in this report. Another recommendation that they've put out there is a 3-year inspection cycle. I'm not aware if the city has that either, but I thought that was a good call out. And then I just wanted to direct your attention here to just some definitions here in Appendix A. We've seen, the load-related stress and non-loaded distress, and I know our city manager's new favorite, alligator cracking, is noted in here. In addition to other types of rutting, depressions, and kind of what that means. And then we get into the different appendices as we kind of cruise through the network summary statistics. These needs analysis reports is really, it's just kind of a different way to look at the information. The scenario analysis reports, that's where it gets pretty interesting and where we identify some of these costs. And so I don't know, the unconstrained needs, I don't perceive that as really being a feasible avenue for the city myself, but the current funding, this is just another way that it's laid out. They've got here the base year. And so that's what we're looking at right now. And then, you're assuming that we would have started early in 2023 with getting some of these completed per recommendation, what some of these totals would look like moving forward with the current funding. If we want to look at some of these other scenarios, like maintaining the current PCI or pavement condition index, they do have some figures here for what that looks like as we move through the next 5 years. And then there's also the potential to increase the pavement condition index by 5 points over the next 5 years. And so they've got that laid out. They also have, now this is the very long appendix, is the listing report. And so I'm going to kind of skip through the first unconstrained needs, because that just lays out all the things that would happen in year one. And it's a lot. We can certainly stop and camp there if we want to, but I'm just going to cruise through here and see if I can find scenario 2, which is the current funding. And so here is kind of the list of under the current $200,000 allocated every year. These are kind of the recommended first year treatments. We do have Clark Avenue identified in here, which was going to be by other funding mechanisms. So that's why they have that in here. But I do want to point out to you guys that Cloverdale Boulevard is in here a couple of times in the immediate years. And so we're going to talk next about the striping plans that have been provided by W-Trans for Cloverdale Boulevard, and how that kind of translates into this recommendations report and what we do first. Anyways, that's why I wanted to kind of bring this to your attention. This is what we'd be looking like under the current funding level for potentially year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And Cloverdale Boulevard comes up a few times. There is some economy in grouping, like, for example, I would do all of Cloverdale Boulevard first and shuffle some of these other ones around. I think that there could be some, what am I looking for? Efficiency, cost efficiency there with mobilizing and just getting the contractor in one area, and then moving forward if you guys want to look at, striping the boulevard. Anyways, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then the maps that David was looking at earlier, those are here in the last appendices. With the current pavement condition, what happens if we have an unconstrained budget and we can spend 31 million over the next 5 years? Here's what happens if we keep with the current funding, and what that looks like in 5 years. And the other scenarios that they looked at. I apologize. Let me fix my screen here a little bit. All right. Any questions?
I have a couple if I could, Mr. Chair. Very thorough report, Vanessa. Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. 31.9 over 5 years would bring us from a 60 something up to an 80 something. I believe was the acceptable level that we would be at citywide. How does that kind of compare with like Windsor, or do we know Hillsburg or Santa Rosa? I mean, are they sitting on a 50, or where are we in the fray, if you know offhand?
I don't know offhand. I could reach out to the consultant. I think that he did these for a few of our local agencies here, and I can certainly reach out. Another easy ask would be the Sonoma County Public Works directors all get together monthly. And so, we can ask them what they're dealing with. Even if they didn't necessarily use caps for their reporting, I can imagine they know some information about their own pavement condition indices.
Hillsburg has a 63 in 2020. They were on an improving basis.
That's
Whereas we're on a 60.
Well, I know, David, you remember, I think you were with us when we redid Cloverdale Boulevard, north of 3rd Street, with a crack and seal or whatever you call it. And Paul Keller was really big on making sure that that got done to try and preserve what we had. And you know, I'm all in favor of that. But getting back to that $31 million, I mean, what's that predicated on? Like, I mean, how do you come up with $31 million? Is it so much a mile? Current cost, and does that, I'm sure it goes up and down, probably up more than down, but.
It is, they did an analysis based on, you know, the city had some limited bidding information. So they took, you know, the recent like 4th Street project, for example, and then they looked at other regional bids. And they applied kind of you know, an estimate, if you will, of what treatment level was needed and what costs would be associated with that. And that is in one of these appendices. They lay it out there. For example, arterial streets needing an overlay is this much per square foot. And so they did do that deep dive.
Right, for every street in Cloverdale, the report has the name of the street, the length, the width, the area, the current PCI, the cost to improve it, along with the treatment type. So it's very detailed.
Yeah.
So, you know, this could be a tool for council, you know, within budget constraints to say, oh, you know, we'd like to flurry seal Mulberry Street, and you know, adjacent streets. It kind of gives us a ballpark in terms of what it might cost to do that particular treatment.
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of data to help kind of make some, you know, informed decisions around, you know, where do you want to spend the road dollars.
I think, you know, in one of the recommendations is from them is for us to increase our budgeting. And, you know, I think the whole council has to come to the meeting of the minds that, yeah, this is a priority for Cloverdale, and we need to, just like we have our reserve policy set up, you know, we need to dedicate more than 100,000 a year. But and you know me, Vanessa, I like the half-ass approach of an overlay, you know, rather than digging up the whole street. And you know, I don't really see anything wrong with that. You know, we put the stethoscope to the ground and make sure that there's no leaks and anything going on under there. And if it's all okay, just pave over it. And I don't mean to ramble here, but and I also want to remind everyone that the mayor at one point was working with a company to do Kelly Road with some type of new pavement that they have. And I'm just wondering if we've gone anywhere with that and how that would backfill into the city. And then also Johannes with the county has extended the invitation, David, to us. And I know you know this, that if they're doing any paving close by and we wanted to piggyback, you know, it might save us a couple bucks to do that. And I'm not sure if the overlay is included in that. So just kind of throwing some stuff out there.
Yeah, we understand from conversation with the mayor that the county is going to do some paving work on Clovercrest. And they're very likely to choose the section, of course, that's in the county.
Yeah.
But I think that's an opportunity for us to have a conversation to see if, because, you know, the city line obviously doesn't mean that there's not potholes. If we could identify an additional area that would be that they could include in their bid package to also pay a portion within the city. So we do need to do some coordination with the county to see if we can include that. We'll want to get to them before they put it out to bid.
Yeah.
So that we can see if there's, you know, what's the cost and opportunity to collaborate with them. Because there is some efficiencies in mobilization, preparing bid specs, putting it out to bid and all that. And if we can, you know, try to check for our cost share, it's probably going to be a lot more easier and a lot less costly than doing it ourselves.
Right.
So we'll definitely pursue that where there's opportunities for for collaboration with our county partners.
And I definitely agree with maintaining the good stuff. I just think that's so important thing. You know, what's deteriorated is deteriorated and it's gonna be a fortune to fix, but, so yeah, I'll support that. Thank you, Vanessa.
Sure. The next attachment that's in this particular item is the 90% plans for the Cloverdale Boulevard striping. Let's see, and so I'm going to pull that up really quick here and do this again. Okay, and hopefully you guys are seeing this Cloverdale Boulevard striping set here. Okay, and so, you know, just kind of just a real quick overview for what I was looking at in comparing these plans with the previous report and looking at what's proposed under the current funding levels, improvements, slurry seals effectively to the boulevard over the next 5 years. And so, you know, this is one of them. For talking purposes, I'm going to call it segment 10. You know, basically from the north city limit lines all the way down to the intersection with North Street. And so this is one that I think we should, you know, potentially look at doing a slurry seal before we move forward with this striping. This one is another one in, oh, sorry about that. This segment here in year 5, this one's proposed. And so it's all over the place. There's quite a few of these segments. This is another one proposed in year 5, would be this area here. If we skip down a couple.
And Vanessa, can you just describe verbally this, when you say this section for chair?
So let's see, this section would be from, okay, let's see. So we've got from the north city limits to North Street, the intersection with North Street. That's one segment. Now, if we go from North Street down to the intersection with 3rd Street, which is on the following page, to here, that's another segment proposed for year 5. But I would argue, let's just do them all in year 1, or year 1 and 2, just to get the boulevard out of the way. The next segment would be this West Street, also known as Railroad Avenue. This is proposed to year 1 for year 1 to get us down to just south of Citrus Fair, probably through this striping area here. We've got from Franklin Street down to Cherry Creek Road is another segment proposed for slurry seal. And actually scratch that, it carries on to the next page, all the way down to Brookside Drive. That is another year 1 slurry seal recommendation.
So I think what Vanessa's discussing here is that we have developed a striping plan, which provides for refreshing our striping along the boulevard. But when we take a look at the pavement index report, it's recommending to preserve that pavement, a slurry seal, and so within the next 5 years. So it kind of gets back to a timing issue: is do we want to prioritize a slurry seal on these sections in advance of restriping?
I think we
Right. So that's just trying to be strategic in how we approach these projects. And then we have to look at, again, go back to the budget, kind of figure out from a slurry seal perspective, what are what areas do we want to prioritize? Do we want to do the north section? I would probably suggest or recommend to council we really look at maybe between the south of downtown, south, say Brookside. To me, that's a critically traveled section for a pavement overlay. But then look at other areas if we want to move forward with the striping, so that we're not, we're trying to coordinate what work we perform when. Because then we're going to want to come back after we do that. If we do a pavement overlay, correct me, Vanessa, we're going to want to do striping at that point, right? Because we're going to get a whole fresh surface down, and then we'll want to put the striping in. So those are just kind of things what we can do as staff is outline some options within our budget scenarios that, you know, we might be able to approach doing some of these projects. You know, given the recommendation or need, we know we need to restrike, but also to preserve, you know, in some cases, preserve what we have, particularly the boulevard. You know, this gives us some options for some different scenarios and how we approach that. So just want to kind of, you know, there's a lot to digest here, and I'm thinking, you know, this is something that would be valuable to maybe send to council as an independent report. And you know, just one so council can see it, because there's a lot to review and digest.
Yeah.
With a presentation much like Vanessa provided to this subcommittee, giving an overview, you know, giving that background, the science, the engineering perspective, and then in that with, you know, here are some options that we may want to consider, because we do have, you know, council has, you know, really started to establish, you know, that we want an annual budget for street improvements, and I think that's an important decision. And now we gotta need to look at how can we supplement that and add to the funding to be able to accomplish, you know, more work, and you know, start looking at how we have these grant funds that we were awarded through SCTA. You know, how does that dovetail with some of this work as well? So trying to be as strategic as we can with how all these projects are going to be you know, delivered in a way that we're not redoing or having to you know, spend money on something that we're going to have to redo because some other phase of the project is not sequenced appropriately.
And it's encouraging too, the report that you gave, Vanessa, in the sense that, I guess to do it right, it's gonna cost a lot of money, but to do an overlay, and I'm not saying it's not right, you know, that's something we can afford. You know, we can get some streets done with overlays and, you know, put a Band-Aid on it for now, until we come up with a bigger plan. So I'm encouraged by this, so.
And there is a third attachment settled onto the back of this thing, and that is, so part of the caps, when they first met with us, and you know, we kind of wiggled it in there saying, you know, the city's concerned with striping. While you're out here evaluating the pavement, can you also evaluate the striping? And so they did provide that assessment as a separate PDF, and so that is the last kind of attachment in that packet there. I do just want to point out, though, I know this may not be terribly well received, but so the conditions rating, that's what this looks like. I've highlighted the segments that we were just talking about that are in the 5-year plan under the current budget scenario. They have identified those stripings as being relatively good. And so, you know, I guess that begs the question is, you know, category 4, if you will, is very good. Markings are clear, and raised markers are generally in place. And so I know that, you know, this subcommittee kind of was specifically interested in striping along the boulevard. But I know that there are a lot of roads that need striping based on this assessment. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out to you. That's what we were looking at.
Is there any members in the audience? I'm not sure Councilmember Paula is virtually attending there.
The member of the attendance appears to be staff.
Okay.
Vanessa, did they, on the striping and stuff, this might be completely off base here, but when they evaluated the striping, did that encompass what the mayor was talking about from Citrus Fair down, how that passing lane, and he wanted to move that in and make that just a single lane and remove that kind of that passing lane right there?
No, he was evaluating the existing striping and the condition of the existing striping. So that hasn't really been looked at. But, you know, I mean, that's, you know, that's another bit of a moving target. And if we're going to move forward with doing that improvement, I would be inclined to engage W-Trans sooner than later about revising their striping plans So that desired configuration is captured. And, you know, they proposed these plans to us, really refreshing what is existing without any design. And so we'd have to kind of renegotiate the contract a little bit. I anticipate they'll ask for some more funding to do the design in that area, but we can certainly squeeze that in.
Perfect, thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah, this gives us a perfect opportunity to look at what's there. And since they've done that, the kind of baseline assessment, you know, give us recommendations. If we're going to restripe it, here's what it would look like, given that we want to try to eliminate that pass-through lane.
And I think one of the things we have to do also, and is to at some point, as we plan for the future, to take into consideration the medical center that's going to be encouraging more traffic on Citrus Fair, and to talk to Citrus Fair about their future plans for Citrus Fair Drive. And David, I think we've talked briefly about that, how all that's going to intersect right there at that intersection. And, you know, is it advisable to do away with that little passing lane? So I just think that's going to take some homework for us to decide on that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Well, there's again, a lot to digest in the report. I think it's a really great work product in terms of the pavement management program. Obviously, the striking plan is really is a plan set that's a 90% design level to help us, you know, to ultimately would position us to be able to go out to bid for sections or all of it, depending on you know, what we think we can afford, which I think from our perspective, it probably looks like we would probably recommend doing it in segments, but we'll have to bring back options for council to consider. But want to seek your concurrence that, you know, the next step, we send a report out to council by way of a memo or an email from the city engineer with an update. We bring it back for a future presentation.
Yeah. That's a huge report. I mean, it's 170 pages. No.
And I mean, obviously the $30 million recommendation to that's, you know, $6 million a year. Even Windsor isn't, you know, they fund it to about $1 million a year level. I mean, but they've been doing it consistently. So, you know, they have a higher PCI because of that. But you know, that's where we endeavor to get is where we're budgeting amount, and we just every year we make progress on addressing key sections of our road. We have to just maintain our pavement and maintaining the condition that it is. Because even with the increased funding that the council's granted, we're still subject to future decline.
And we never know what Measure M is gonna really, well, we have an idea of what's we're gonna make it anywhere.
Well, I'm hoping too, because they're doing similar. This is MTC, I think, you know, is seeing the merit in funding these, because hopefully it also helps to educate our state elected officials on the need for funding for these road, you know, across the state for road improvements. So, you know, maybe it'll help direct some legislative fixes. No promises there, obviously, just that's the hope.
Well, then make you pay to drive in the commuter lane or something. We pay for that.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. Appreciate it.
We do have some questions from the consultant on the 90% submittal. And I certainly have some ideas on how to respond to that, but I wanted to run it by the subcommittee to see what you guys thought. And so here I'm going to do this again. Okay, one of the questions here from the subconsultant has come up. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. Is some of the side streets don't, oh gosh, let's see here. some of the side streets don't have stop signs approaching the boulevard, and they gave an example of Middlestat Lane. And asking if we would like to add stop signs and stop markings on these streets or just leave it as is. And so Middlestat Lane in particular is at the north limits of the city. It appears to be a dirt road. We can certainly go through and kind of evaluate these one by one, but my idea is that if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I'm not aware of any problems with these side streets not having stop signs. But if there's any that you guys think about, or if you disagree with that and you would like stop signs added to these, stop signs, stop markings, and that kind of thing, it just, you know, the more we add, the more it is to maintain in the long run. And so that's one of their questions.
Vanessa, I think Middlestat is up by the quick stop, just as you go past over that creek on the right-hand side there. And
It
I think,
is.
is it not?
It is. It's,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a dirt road. The Middlestat family used to have their ranch back there. They might even still have it, and that's how it got there. So on that one, I'm perfectly fine just leaving it alone.
Yeah.
Was there another one in particular? You
well,
said-
they didn't call any out, but I think it's the same thing. I think, you know, if there is a stop sign missing, it's probably because it's a very low volume road,
Right.
or a private road or a dirt road. And again, I'm not aware of any safety issues associated with anything approaching the boulevard.
Okay.
The next thing they were asking about is some of the side streets have a yellow center line, some of them don't. And so they specifically cited School Street versus 4th Street. If there's a desire to make this consistent throughout the city, and whether we're looking at a 25-foot length or a 50-foot length of double yellow.
So you're talking School Street that actually, I guess, runs from Jefferson all the way down to Cloverdale Boulevard, which is closed during the day for the high school, right?
Correct.
Okay, and there is, there's a lot of those yellow bumpy things, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, is that a picture of it?
That is, so it's the combination with the center line and then some of the, it looks like these are box dots as opposed to
Yeah.
reflective markers, but oh, maybe they are reflective. But yeah, you know, or, you know, as opposed to, for example, East 4th Street does not have that center line stripe. And so, you know,
East 4th Street is so narrow, and
Right.
that's where we had problems with the RV parking in the street, if I'm not mistaken. Is the question, do we want them center striped or leave them alone?
that is the question. And so my recommendation would be, you know, match what's existing.
Leave it as is.
Yeah.
Leave them as
Yeah.
is.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And then the third thing, this was a little bit more fun, but the bike lane markings along the boulevard are a mix between the symbol and the words bike lane. And so this is another one. Do we want to make them consistent throughout? Do we want to just keep what's there and refresh what's in place? And where we need new bike markings, what do we want, symbols or words? And so let's see.
Yeah, David doesn't like reading on the weekend.
So here's the words, what that looks like, bike lane. I know this isn't a great image of that, but you know, here it is in front of the Ace Hardware. I did find another one. There's the symbol is, you know, the little guy on the bike. They both have arrows. Here's another one. It looks to me at a glance that the bicycle, the image here is more prevalent. And I like this one because it's, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't have a language barrier.
Mhm.
Anyways, and so here is what that looks like out of the Caltrans standard plans. We would be looking at, another thing is that these are typically costed out by square feet. And so the bicycle symbol with the little man, with the person is about 7 square feet. Whereas if we get into the bike lane, that is a combination of 11 square feet, excluding the arrow. If you notice those on the street, they also have a little arrow accompanying them. And so in theory, the person on the bike would likely be a little bit cheaper. That is my preference. This is one where I would recommend making them all consistent with the symbol. But that's another one. I'd like you guys' feedback on that.
I'm all about symbols. Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, that's fine.
Hopefully, if you're riding a bike, you know what that means right there.
All right, thank you very much. I will get back to the consultant and we'll get those things finalized.
Can we talk about one more item pertaining to roads? That I received a comment on, and it's Frankfurt. It's Franklin. As it goes past the Clearwater Church and coming up to Hillsburg Avenue. Right where Jimmy DiMartini's property is there, Kevin. Before you get to it, there's some cars that park out on Franklin. And when they're parked, they're the bigger work trucks. When they're parked, cars going north actually have to go into the southbound lane to get around them. And I'm just wondering if there's no parking on that street, maybe the sign was never posted. But I'm starting to kind of understand why we had that easement on that DiMartini property. Because I think at some point in time, the city might have been looking to bump out that intersection a little more. So I guess my concern is, people are concerned about cars parking on Franklin as you approach Hillsburg Avenue.
Let us take a look at that.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, I think probably what might be needed, I'm looking at an aerial, is some red curb painting around those corners. At the very least, protect the sight distance. And I can see it kind of narrows down, whether on the north side, or the north side of Healdsburg, I think the street's wide enough to provide parking in the two travel lanes, but it's a little restricted when you head south of Healdsburg. So we can look at that. I think maybe some red curb painting, and then a determination whether there needs to be some signage around the no parking zone in that area. Let's take a look at that, maybe with Vanessa when you come up, do a site visit, or even look at do some pavement lifts there and see if we should restrict parking.
And you're looking at Franklin south of Healdsburg or north of Healdsburg?
South.
Okay,
Between Riesling and Healdsburg.
Oh, Riesling, I'm sorry.
I see, okay.
No, is it?
Oh, I see.
Yes,
Riesling
yes,
comes down.
right, okay. Riesling and Hillsburg, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking on like the Spence side, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if parking needs to be restricted all along there, but I think maybe at least if you approach Healdsburg.
Yeah.
You see that.
That was all I had on streets, thank you.
Thank you.
Just gonna try to digest that entire report and then we'll be good.
And I'm happy to help with the presentation to council too. You guys let me know.
Yeah, we'd like you to lead us.
Help.
I'll do it.
When you're available.
All right, next item. Congressman Mike Thompson correspondence.
Yeah, this was, this correspondence was provided to council, was in the last city council agenda packet. This is the letter from our it's not specifically our congressman, but he represents parts of Sonoma County. And he's writing the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in regards to actions taken by PG&E regarding Scotts Dam that is the primary mechanism for withholding water in Lake Pillsbury in Lake County. And given their actions, there's concerns because it will result in a decrease in the amount of water that's retained in the reservoir, which in turn can impact the ability to divert water to Lake Mendocino. So this is really just informational, and the subcommittee has received updates on the Potter Valley project. And so we really just want to kind of keep this, front of mind, that this is an ongoing issue that we're tracking. We're actually going to be participating in a forum with the water agency. The mayor and I participated in an interview that was sponsored by the Sonoma Water, for which they received a grant to start addressing the impacts of the Potter Valley project on downstream, users of resources, including those in Mendocino County and Sonoma County. And so this is going to be a long drawn out process around how this issue of water from Potter Valley is going to be allocated in the future. So it's no action necessary unless you want to direct staff to take certain action, but otherwise we're just going to continue to monitor and practice, and we want to make sure it was in the record so that if concerned citizens want to know what's going on, there's correspondence in the record that shows that we are tracking.
Good. The questions, their vice mayor? Okay. Move on to policies.
Are these standing on this time?
So we're still
We're still on new business. Standing
It's almost scrimmage time.
This was directed by council to this subcommittee. Council took up an amendment to the flag policy to address the request from Rotary to install a peace flag on the plaza. Council did adopt the amendment, but there was discussion about considering adding another flagpole to the front of City Hall to accommodate the pride flag, primarily for display of maybe a city flag, if that was so chosen. So I think this doesn't really come with any particular actions per se, other than garnering the subcommittee's feedback on possible next steps.
Can I just summarize my understanding of this so that at least I have it clear in my mind? And hopefully Rotary has not changed their mind about moving forward with the commemorative flag pole in the plaza, and hopefully they're still going to go through with that. There are certain groups within the Cloverdale that feel that if we do not hang certain flags on the yard arm that we use for the American flag and state flag, that we're somehow not as supportive as we should be to those certain causes, which, as far as I'm concerned, could be nothing further from the truth. Where we hang a particular flag, it doesn't mean that I disrespect that cause, more so because it's not hanging on the yard arm of the American flag. I think if there's any flag that deserves to fly on its own, it's the American flag. And we can also accommodate the state flag. That's great. I like the idea of having a separate decorative commemorative flag pole to do special groups that we want to go above and beyond to recognize. I'm just stating my opinion that I'm still in favor of doing what the mayor had suggested, and just for my own personal reasons, that the yard arm is the American flag and state flag. And then we have a decorative flag, commemorative flagpole on the plaza. So then we said, well, let's see if we can move it up to the front of the building. I don't even know if that's gonna make certain groups happy. I don't know if it has to be with the American flag for them to feel that we recognize it or not. But, if we could do a separate flag pole out front, fine. If we can't, then we make the policy. Here's how flags are gonna fly in the city of Cloverdale, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think my assessment of council's direction was to amend the commemorative flag policy to provide for the Rotary's commemorative flag, maintaining the pride flag on the main flagpole at City Hall for at least 1 year while we evaluate these options for another flagpole. So I think what might be an option would be for us, well, Rotary has indicated, we've met with them that they would like to continue to move forward in the original location that was proposed. We did discuss the option of whether they were supportive of moving it to the north or moving it to the front of City Hall. Their preference was to continue in the location where they had planned. So that is moving forward, and we will be we will be finalizing an agreement with them that covers the terms that were in the agenda report. So that is really going to be move forward. I think what we need to do now is evaluate council, per council direction. Vice Mayor, is the addition of a new flagpole, would that address, do some community outreach to see if that would address the concerns, I think, around equity, equality for commemorative flags. That would be my recommendation, is to get their feedback if that's going to be an approach that's supported or not, because that may weigh in ultimately with council as to whether you want to support the expenditure for a second flagpole in front of City Hall.
Right. And if I heard Rotary correctly, they would prefer not to have anything fly above their particular flag that they're flying. Did I hear that correctly?
I think that's an accurate assessment. I mean, there's no hard rule that says that they couldn't fly another flag above theirs.
For 30 days.
Right, but I think their goal is to have it be flown year round.
Right.
And so it's not a.
Well, and that's what we mentioned, and I know I mentioned to Dolph at that meeting would Rotary be opposed to, for 1 month out of the year, lower the peace flag, and then the pride flag goes above that. And he was like, no, so that's.
No,
where
we didn't want to do that.
No, he did not. He didn't entertain that. He said, and then he went into, we're gonna fly this year round. We'd like our flag. This is the pole we're funding, yada, yada. Okay, fine. And then we went back into the decision of this year flying the pride flag on this flagpole, but like you said, and then entertaining future getting a second flagpole, then that would become the commemorative flagpole. My big concern with it was I never, during that entire back and forth, is I never really got an answer on the importance of, because to me, there's more visibility with the new flagpole out there on the plaza. There's more visibility for the commemorative flags, whether it be the pride flag or the whatever one, the child abuse flag or whatever flag. And I asked that question a couple different ways, and I never got the importance of it having to be up front. I was kind of looking to see, okay, you want it flown, we're giving you an option, but then that option just at the time didn't seem to be good enough, which led to the second flagpole. So that's where I think we're at, and bring it back to council. I mean, I'm not making a decision for those guys.
Sure.
But second pole out front, but I'm also 100% on board with that. Nothing gets flown higher than or the American flag up there. That's where that's going to stay. And if that becomes the American flagpole and something doesn't get flown, or we ruffle a few feathers, then let's have that discussion somewhere else. But I don't see that American flag coming down or anything on that.
Right, and I mean, I think that's the code, the flag code.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know I think because I may have conveyed it incorrectly, that but this flagpole can accommodate the US flag, the state flag, and the pride flag. So it can accommodate all three on one, and I think that's what we're gonna continue with for the month of June, is that so if we do add another flagpole, it will certainly be necessary to ensure any flag that's flown on that flagpole is flown below the US flag.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point, what I'd like to suggest back to the subcommittee is, as we approach June, or we could do it before, is to review the minutes of that council meeting and send out an invitation list to Reese, to Jane, to the Greens, and whoever else vocally spoke about having that flag fly on the Union, on the unarmed, and get a meeting together and say, okay, here's where we're at. What's, you know, why does it have to fly there? You know, why can't it fly over here? You know, I don't know.
I don't know if they knew that it was actually flown here last year and every other year. I don't think that was, I don't think they realized that.
Who didn't realize that?
That's Pete speakers at the council meeting.
They didn't, well, Reese knew we flagged it.
Okay.
We flew it right there, right?
I think she probably did.
I think her and Jane probably know.
Okay.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, they did, because remember somebody came after the mayor because,
All right.
yeah, remember, never mind, the flag.
Well, I think the meeting will be good because they've got this, like, you guys are. Again, you don't want to do this, which couldn't be farther from the truth. You're part of this community, then let's support what you've got going on for a month out of the year. 100% on board with supporting everybody and their decisions, that's fine. But there's also rules that go with, hey, yeah, exactly. So we've got to get everybody on the same song sheet of, here's the flag we're talking about. We're not budging on the American flag, so let's start working our way to what you guys said everybody will be happy with.
Yeah. Flying by itself, the American flag, along with the state flag, is such a commitment of respect. You know, David, I think you and I looked at the county. I think they have 3. I think Windsor has 3 poles.
That's typically the case where you have flags displayed, there's multiple flagpoles, so it kind of it's more adaptable to changes,
Right.
and it makes it tough when we only have one.
Yeah, and there's no disrespect intended. It's just accommodating all the flags, and that's the way it goes. I'm sorry.
And Chair, if I can just, I think Director noted that we need to review the meeting minutes, reach out and see if we can convene a meeting or bring it back for a discussion at this subcommittee. So there's nothing further. I just wanted to say on the standing items, I think for the most
Can we
part.
go back to that real quick?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And just one more time, when we sit down and meet with this group, it would be nice if we had in our back pocket an estimate of whether we could or could not do another flagpole up front. For city commemorative flags.
We
Just a
can,
ballpark. I
yeah,
mean,
we certainly can. We'll have a good idea from
They're
Rotary,
all
what
in
they're-
around, just a cement.
Because I don't think people understand that. What's somebody, you don't just get the literature and throw a flagpole, I mean, there's a lot involved.
A lot of irrigation like
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chair, Vice Chair, I was looking to see if you're standing on, there's a lot of items there. There's a lot of the topics we've covered one in some aspect. Maybe the exception being the Allen Avenue asphalt repair.
That's out to bid, so we're waiting for April 14th is the bid end date.
So that's in response to a water leak we experienced that deteriorated further the existing asphalt condition. So we'll be bringing back recommendations for a contractor to do that work. The traffic cabinet signal replacement that was approved by council. We talked about street pavement conditions, waste receptacles, and street furnishings. infrastructure cost estimates. These are all kind of standing items, just in case there's updates. One item where there is an attachment in your packet, we received the design drawings for Crocker Bridge. And we understand that they are going to be scheduling a ribbon cutting in the near future to kick that project off. And we're coordinating closely with county public works on that project. But other than that, there's really not much updates or report outs on the remaining items. Everything's a lot of the park projects are in process.
Yeah, seems like in that update is like you said, Alan, it's really the only update. We went over that entire list last. All right, well, everybody happy?
Got a lot of work to do.
Sure, well, notes. All right, well, let's go ahead and adjourn at
4:20.
4:20. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And just to confirm for the record, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Standing items, are we're holding off on those?
Yeah, we just gave a summary update.
Yeah.
Right. We'll incorporate that into the minutes. Thank you.
See you, Vanessa, thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.